Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Midnight's Edge. I'm Tom Connors. With me is Andre, the master of ceremonies here at Midnight's Edge. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Greetings, everyone. Hope you're all doing excellent.
And as always, we have the voice of Midnight's Edge along with us, Mr. Rob Gallo. How you doing, sir?
Oh, fantastic! Thank you very much, Andre. Good to see you here, man. And we know
Likewise.
it's difficult for you to join us, so
Yeah, well, time zones be like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, we may have some other guests joining us, but we'll have to see how that goes. We're going to talk some Star Wars news, trailer, and everything else going on.
Yeah, it's been quite a Star Wars heavy week. It started with Star Wars, so let's end it with Star Wars, and then we'll see what next week brings. Because right now there's Destination Star Trek going on in the UK, so we'll see what comes out of that.
Not much so far, but we'll see. First, let's get everybody's feelings on the trailer. Rob and I got to give our feelings on After Dark, so we'll go after Andre. Andre, why don't you go first with this?
Yeah, certainly. We briefly spoke at World Class Bullshitters. So to everyone that wants to see us team up with them, that already happened. So go check out their page. As for my opinion on the trailer, how do I put it? Boring. That is honestly, it's one of the most boring trailers I've ever seen, and for a final trailer, it was an incredible letdown. I gotta say, I've rarely been so utterly bored by a Star Wars trailer, and I cannot help but think back to the Last Jedi trailer, because I thought that the promotional campaign leading into that was excellent, and the final trailer for that actually made me interested in seeing that movie. Remember that, Tom?
Oh, anyway, yeah.
I was. It actually made me interested, and then the movie came, and that's a different chapter all of its own. But this time, I kind of like hope that they have like an Avengers Endgame event like thing planned for us, because for that movie they also didn't really show anything in the trailers, and this time I just thought that the trailer was so painfully boring. Yeah, and I know you have like Horses, and you have Rose Tico, and you have red-eyed C-3PO becoming introduced and saying farewell to his friends and all, but it was just so boring, bland and boring, and some shots looked like the final season of Game of Thrones, which I think we're going to be seeing loads of similarities of by the time we get to the end here. So yeah, not impressed, not in the slightest.
Well, we all know J.J. Abrams can't really do anything original, so that's why you're getting lots of stuff that reminds you of Game of Thrones. But we lost Tom. Oh darn! But
it's just two of us then. Well, as long as we're two, then we can keep on having a conversation.
You're not even a Star Wars fan, though. There's Tom. Well, you're not even a Star Wars. So, that's understandable that you wouldn't be interested. But, even I'm like, what is going on? What is going on and all? I don't know.
Yeah, but keep in mind, though, I'm not a fan. But I was still interested to see the previous one. And that was despite me not being a fan. I was no bigger fan then than I am now. And that trailer made me interested to see it. Whereas this trailer just failed at all levels, because there was absolutely nothing in there that told me that I should see this movie. Nothing. Because if you just look at the story itself, what is there to glean from it? Nothing. What about the characters that I should know from previous movies, whether I'm a fan or not? Nothing. Like, literally, there's no reason for me to go see it as a fan or non-fan.
I don't know who said it, but I heard somebody actually say this morning, when all is said and done, years from now, what are we going to say this Star Wars trilogy is about? Honestly, it doesn't seem to be about anything. The first one you could say, when I say the first one, the original, the 77 through 83, Star Wars through Return of the Jedi, you could say it's about a son trying to redeem his father. the prequel trilogy, you could say it's about the fall of the rise and the fall of Anakin Skywalker, his fall from grace. What is the story here? I don't know. I don't understand. That's the $64,000 question. What's the story, Morning Glory?
I submit the Rehash trilogy. Rehash trilogy or cash grab trilogy.
Yeah.
Best I can.
And also, I also heard someone say that Star Wars fans now know what Star Trek fans are going through, because you have the same schools of thought. Alex Kurtzman was a J.J. Abrams disciple, and the same thing's happening. The same nonsensical dialogue, the same setups and no payoffs that happened in Star Trek are happening in Star Wars. So
I still think that Star Wars fans got it bad, or Star Trek fans got it worse still. To be honest, you know why? Because Star Wars fans, you still have the original trilogy and all that hasn't changed, and you still got Rogue One out of it, which fits pretty flawlessly in with the original trilogy and all of that. So, and you're still going to get the Mandalorian and everything. What do we Star Trek fans get? Well, we have alternate Picard to look forward to, and that's about it. And who knows how that's going to work out. By all indications, not too well.
Yeah, but Luke Skywalker has been completely and utterly destroyed. Leia has been completely and utterly pretty much destroyed. So is Han. I mean, I don't want to go tit for tat here, but it's like, I think both are just equally fucked, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still more opportunities, and I get what Andre's saying. There's still more opportunities outside of the Skywalker saga for Star Wars to flourish.
Also, you can, like, in your own head, you can kind of like dismiss the new movies as fan fiction.
Yeah.
And keep Rogue One. So you have like that going on.
Yeah. With Star Trek, they've made sure they've integrated their tentacles into every aspect of the original series and of everything else. You can just watch. You can even just watch Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and completely ignore this trilogy and the prequel trilogy, and you could be fine. That's the thing. Now, Star Trek, like, if we're going to compare, we're comparing apples to oranges, but if we compare Star Trek, I mean, the whole thing is corrupted with Star Trek. This, at least, there is something you can pull out. Like I said, you could choose to just watch Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi, and then that's it. If you guys know what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. In the meantime, we also got a super chat from Rivers727, $5, saying, would you prefer RJ, I take it you mean Ryan Johnson, to direct 9 over JJ? Way I see it, JJ coming back is the best decision they could make, as his drafts were ditched by Ryan Johnson. That's a good question. Tom?
No. Because Ryan Johnson's I'm sorry, I think he's a complete hack. I thought Looper was a good idea but poorly executed. The Last Jedi had a lot of great ideas that were poorly executed. Them throwing out the entire game plan was a bad idea to begin with. That's at least my opinion on that. I mean, yeah, whether you like The Force Awakens or whether or not this whole trilogy would have just turned out to be a rehash of all the other movies that have been a different story, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I hope you got enough of those snacks for all of us, Rob.
Oh, jeez,
I was going to say, yeah, you're like crunching over me. I'm like, dude.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
We got another super chat anyway.
I cooked up, I sent Tom the photo. I was cooking up some ribs. I shall grill no swine before it's time.
We got a drunk 3PO too while we're at it.
Hello. Let me mute. Drunk 3PO. Let me mute, okay?
He's the reason his eyes are red, because he's entirely drunk all the time. Isn't that right, Mr. Drunk 3PO?
Yeah, except Tuesdays.
Tuesdays is a sober day. All right.
That's a taco day. So
that's Taco Tuesday. Tico Tuesday.
Yeah, that happens to be Rob's gaming night, doesn't it?
As of now, it is, yes. We've got $9.99 from Mexican Iron Man. Hail the arrival of Midnight's Edge, the channel for grad school fans with our professors of fandom, Andre, Tom, and the trailer was empty and hollow. Yes, it was. Drunk
Thanks
3PO.
so much. And yeah, it was indeed.
That's what we've been talking about here is the trailer. What did you get out of the trailer?
It was a PowerPoint presentation with no substance. They could have just done us a favor and just sent us pictures. Like in a magazine, it would have done the same thing. There was, I was listening to Andre say how flat and boring it was. And there was no money shot. There was no, no wow, gotcha moment. Like Force Awakens, gave us Han and Chewie. That was wow. Last Jedi even gave us a tease that Rey could be turning to the dark side. They gave us space horses. Yes. Space horses.
That's cool for people who like horses.
Goodbye, space horses.
That was very underwhelming.
You know what? That actually gives me an idea for a stand-up movie or a spin-off movie that Disney could do, like a Disney Star Wars presents the Space Horse Whisperer.
Robert Redford busy?
The problem was, like, I think first of all, thank you so much for the invitation to come on, Andre, Tom, Rob.
Well, Jeremy couldn't make it, so I figured.
All right, I don't care if I'm last best. Last best. I still appreciate the,
somebody had to represent geeks and gamers. So
that's right. Everything that they showed us was something we've already seen. It seems like when Rey was on the floating Death Star, I guess that's not even Endor; it's some other water planet.
Yeah.
And Kylo Ren comes out from like the waves. Honestly, cinematically, that's a cool scene. But when you see it's Kylo Ren, you're kind of like, yeah, we've seen that before. She's just gonna beat him again because that's what she does. There's no excitement, no nothing. It's just the same thing. And yeah, the C-3PO scene, I guess, was the emotional part. But you're like, you don't even know these people, and it's just Poe that yelled at him for like the last two movies. And I know there's a time jump, so maybe you got to know them, but
that's still, they've spent a whole of like 45 seconds together in the previous movies, and that's not even really hyperbole, at all. It was just, or hyperbole.
They had no scenes together, but Poe yelling at 3PO, "Shut up!" Like that's it. Then the next time you're going to see him is, "I'm going to say goodbye to my friend." Like really?
Yeah, I was going to say hyperbolic. But yeah, it's like, I'm saying goodbye. We're taking one last look at my friends. It's like, you don't even know these people.
Exactly.
And that's way out of C-3PO's character. There's a deleted scene from The Last Jedi that somebody posted on Twitter that is totally within 3PO's character. And it was one other interaction between him and Poe. And he's like, screw this, I'm out of here. And he's taking off as Poe's yelling at him. It's like, yep, that's 3PO. He's a little... scaredy cat. No matter what you think he'd care, what your objective is, he does not care. He just wants to stay in one piece.
It's very,
and you would know.
Yeah. Trailer was very, when they give you a teaser to the teaser final trailer, and they try to hype you up like, hey, this is going to be what you've been waiting for. Here's a little tease before it's just like, and then you watch it, and you're just like, yeah, thank you. I see nothing new here.
Well, not only that, there was zero context.
Yeah, you don't even know what the movie's you have no idea, like, what's the point? Like, what's the problem? What are they trying to accomplish? What's going to happen? So it's just voiceover, PowerPoint is all it is.
Yeah. You know what I would have liked, what I was expecting for? I was not just expecting a money shot moment, but some kind of reveal. Like, for instance, remember an earlier trailer gave us like the laugh of Palpatine, although that was like so subtle that the guy had to come out at that convention, like Star Trek what no Star Wars.
It was something in
thing,
the
whatever.
UK, yeah, right after the trailer
No,
came
no,
out.
no, no, no. This wasn't a UK thing. This was like the American thing.
Oh, it was Celebration. Yeah, you're right.
Celebration.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. That's the one. Yeah, Star Wars Celebration. That they had to have him come out on stage because otherwise no one would have guessed that it was Palpatine's laugh. Basically, I would have wanted some kind of moment like that, like bring out Anakin or something. So I hope that the movie is going to be filled with surprises like that, because otherwise it's going to be horrible. Of course, which it may be
Right.
anyway. But
well, I think I said this the other night on World Class Bullshitters. The whole trailer was basically one big mystery box.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's JJ's building his mystery box again.
And we got $10 Canadian from Kaz Walker. The only good thing about the trailer was the music. And there we go. That goes right into what we're saying is like, yeah, like Jay was saying, it's one big PowerPoint.
There was music?
Yeah, well, that was the one good thing about it was they had a very
the rest was so bland. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, there was this very swelling version of the Star Wars theme that's a little different than we've ever heard before. That was kind of cool, but other than that,
speaking of swelling, all the visuals were bloated in this.
Oh yeah,
he throws everything at including the kitchen sink, on the screen, and I keep saying we've seen this technique before, especially with Star Trek Discovery and with movies like Into the Spider-Verse. You throw everything on the screen so you can't process anything. So that way the audience is just wowed by the visuals. But then you say, yeah, but what happened? I don't know. It looked cool, you know? It's just it's really becoming irritating.
Kind of like The Last Jedi through the whole thing. We got $5 from Mr. Gently Benevolent. Thank you so much. Australian, actually. The trailer didn't just give us sporces. We also got Tico's new potato sack.
I got her to say she let herself go, didn't she?
And somebody in the comments of another video said, "Oh, you're body shaming her." I'm like, come on, like you don't have eyes? I'm like, really? I'm like, listen, yeah, it's.
We're not saying that the actress herself. God, I cannot talk today. Listen to me. We're not saying the actress herself is bad looking. We're saying that the choices made to dress her, whoever the costumer was, made horrible choices.
I mean, even her hair. I mean, yeah, it's just come on.
But Tom, it has to be less male gazy. Don't you know that?
How the gays will even be like, "That's horrible. I'd never get caught in that." Sorry, no.
How dare you objectify her?
Because you said the male gaze. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I think we can then all agree that this Rose Tico in this particular movie is doing a great job at fighting the objectification of women.
Whether she knows it or not, yeah.
But we have some more super chats to go through, and we haven't. Did
I miss them? There must have been from earlier then.
Yeah, there's some that we've missed. So let's go through all of them. We already said the $9.99 for Mexican Ironman, so thank you again. We were in the process of answering the question from River727.
Oh, that's right.
$5 super chat, where he basically asked who would we prefer to take over, or who would we prefer to direct episode 9 if we had the choice, Rian Johnson or JJ. Tom, you already had your say on that. Rob, anything you want to chime in? Happy with JJ, or would you like to see Ryan get one more stab at the franchise?
Well, speaking of stab, this is like choosing to be stabbed or choosing to be shot. I mean, at this point.
Right? Why isn't option 3? Can Trevorrow come back?
Or can we get or Joe Johnston? We know that's not happening, but I keep saying, there was a guy who would have been perfect to direct something in this universe.
Yeah. Drunk C3PO, who would you like to see direct episode 9? Of course, now the choice is given, but if you could choose, Johnson or JJ.
At this point, I think they should have just done it together, and that way it would have just been a wonderful nuclear bomb. Just put it right in the middle, and there. But if I had to choose, I would have chosen JJ to do all 3. If If I had to choose, I would choose JJ over Ryan. I will never watch or deal with Ryan Johnson ever. So even if it's the next worst, I'll take JJ over Ryan Johnson.
No matter what. Did any of you see that? There was that tweet, a picture of somebody was at a film school. Ryan Johnson was invited to speak there, and only 100 people showed up.
How many were there room for in the auditorium? I'm all skeptical of tweets like that.
Maybe 1,500, maybe, Tom?
Yeah, it was pretty empty.
It was a big, I was going to say, it would look pretty empty. And it was a free event.
Yeah, it looked like a pretty big room, but there was just like maybe 100 or so people crammed up front. That was it.
Yeah, if accurate, that's pretty embarrassing. If accurate. Anyway, as for me, well, of the two, I prefer JJ. Of course, JJ's problem is that he's great at starting a story, but he's completely useless at sticking the landing. So really, if I had the choice, I would choose another person who would have the goal to bring in Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet and have him snap and make everything okay again. Like, go back in time to just before episode 7, or as I said in World Class Bullshitters, have a director who would be willing to have Luke wake up from a forced-induced nightmare, which is what the two previous movies were, and have him seek out this ray from this nightmares and try to figure out what's really going on.
Yeah.
So I'd go with whoever is willing to do time-traveling, universe-altering paradoxes to fix stuff. And I say that as a non-fan, but at this point, you just got to fix things, however it is deemed possible.
Well, I've said it before. It would have made more sense to film all three movies at once anyway, like The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, it would. These movies all are like standalone almost, because now we're going to have a completely different type of story with a different villain and just a bunch of characters that just kind of muddled through the other films. You know, I mean, like apparently there's a Sith dagger they're supposed to look for, and then there's this.
It's in the trailer.
Like, yeah, it's just. It's just crazy. And then you bring back Palpatine for one film, maybe 15, 20 minutes of screen time. But I mean, the movie's supposed to be long, like 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2 hours and 45.
I think it's clocked in at 155 now. I think was the final cut that they're reporting anyway. But well, here's the thing. We've never physically seen Palpatine unless we believe those leaked pictures.
That's true.
They could really be faking us out. And I brought this up and I can't remember if it was one of our podcasts or one of the other, so many anymore. But regardless, it could just be we're hearing Palpatine's voice from an old hologram or something like that. He could actually still be dead, and they're just faking us out to make us think he's still around. There's a lot
would
of
suck so badly. I would
There's
suck
a lot
so
of different
badly.
scenarios that could be playing on us.
Well, that was one of the leaks that we reported on. Was that it was Palpatine it wasn't him, it was a hologram or something.
Yeah,
that was like when it was like his audiobook, How to Be a Sith or something.
Yeah. Chapter 1. Everything sucks.
Did anybody play Battlefront 2, like the campaign where they had Palpatine already died, but they were he recorded I don't know what it was, 3 years of plans, and they put it in some kind of robot so he could still like give orders to the Empire. Yeah, maybe they're doing something like that.
You mean Palpatine is a better planner than Admiral Gender Studies? I mean, wow.
That's what they did in the video game. They were like, who's giving these orders? They're like Emperor Palpatine, but isn't he dead? Yeah, but he planned it out like another 5 years. He recorded all of the orders to do. So it's
you mean like Jigsaw in the Saw movies?
Yes, exactly. Great.
Order 67, hide a bunch of Star Destroyers on a planet. Order 68, build another Death Star in secret.
Order 69, the sexiest order of them all. You know.
Moving on, because we
yeah.
still have a couple of more super.
Yeah, we actually got a few more here in just the last few
before we
minutes.
can continue. Austin Trench sent us a $4.99 super chat. Guys, I'm going to be relying on you for this one. When are you guys going to cover the Chayo versus Tsuburaya Ultraman court case history? It's an interesting saga spanning from the 70s. Now, I have a preliminary answer to that, but before I reveal it, I just want to hear with you guys. Do any of you know what the hell he's talking about?
No.
Absolutely not.
I'd have to look it up.
Boy, you know what? I remember the first time I heard about that, which was about 5 seconds ago.
No.
Okay,
Well, no, in all seriousness,
then
though,
Austin,
we'll check into it.
I can tell you the answer, and that's with 95% probability. Exactly, never, because we're swamped as it is, and we've never heard about it. Sorry.
Out of context, we don't know what it is. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we can look into it if it's something really juicy. But that whole Ultraman thing, as a world, I don't know, and I have nothing to add to it. Or so yeah, we did start from scratch, all of us. Wrong continent for me. Moving on, Jess Reed sent us a $2 super chat saying, just no question, just a nice observation. Time to smoke some weed and listen to Mead. Oh, nice wordplay right there.
Well, you got a part of Mead here, yeah.
Yeah. And Robert Richmond sent us a €2 super chat. What wins the weekend, Cats or Rise of Skywalker?
For some reason, Cats is going to have a really high ticket sales, but nobody's going to be there. No, I don't know.
It's going to be weird, isn't it?
Well, don't. It's not going to beat Rise of Skywalker, but Cats will do well because you have a lot of Cats will do well because you have a lot of people who remember the musical. It was such a hugely popular musical for years. I mean, but it looks like a fever dream, though.
Yeah. You also have loads of furries out there in the world, but you don't have more furries than you have Star Wars fans.
I think this would turn off furries. Honestly, I mean, I've never talked to one about it, but I would just assume because it just doesn't look right.
And it's also stars Idris Elba. So there you go. I'll take bad career decisions for 100, Alex.
Yeah, I can't. I think we've answered the question, Rob, of whether or not it's Idris or his agent. It's his agent. His agent hates him.
Yeah,
he must get him the worst roles in Hollywood.
Well, not
maybe his agent got bitter after he was like crying and feeling like a slave for being in a Marvel movie.
He's like, I told you to do more of these things, damn it! No, sorry.
That's not a good way to be grateful to your agent after securing a gig in the biggest business there is, and then go and cry to the public about it. That's a big no-no.
Yeah, right before trying to start your own big franchise with the Dark Tower, not a good idea.
And then we've gotten to Cass Walker, who commented that the only thing about the trailer was the music. I don't even remember the music, but if you say so, I believe you all. And then it was Mr. Gently Benevolent who sent us a $5 Australian. And the trailer didn't just give us Sporces. We also got Tico's new potato sack. We already covered that.
Yep.
And let's see.
I think this is the next
one.
one.
No, yeah, there's more. There's more. Jedi Master Seatopia sent us a $10 super chat saying, studios want billion-dollar movies like Marvel. Why do they put little time and effort into the product? DC and the Monsterverse could have performed well if they had showed some love. I love Andre. Oh, thank you. As for the comment, why do they put little time and effort into the product? Actually, they put a crap load of time and loads of effort into the product. Problem is that the people who put that effort and time don't necessarily understand the product and make decisions that in retrospect turn out to be not the best of decisions. This is true for both DC and the Monsterverse as well. Like, you have no idea the amount of resources that was put into it. But that doesn't really help when people in charge have a vision, which is a good thing, but not if the vision doesn't fit the property in question. And that's what happened with all of those, basically. Guys, do you agree with that, or do you have something to add to my sentiments?
No, that's pretty much it. It's a lot of too many cooks in the kitchen, and a lot of those
agreed.
cooks have no idea what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
You can work hard at something and not be good at it. That's the other thing too.
Imagine that.
Yeah, Alex. What do we always hear about Alex Kurtzman? Oh, he's a good guy. He works really hard. Yeah, but he's not. He sucks. He's not good at what he does.
He's good at towing the line. Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of respectable people that we've talked to that we're not going to say their names, who have brought up Alex Kurtzman for no good reason. We never brought him up, and they have said like great and wonderful things about him. It's like, yeah, he's a team player for the producers in the studio. We get that. That's great. But he sucks at product. He's ruined Spider-Man. He's had his hands in Transformers. He's ruined Star Trek. How do you screw up the Dark Universe? I came up with a perfectly great Avengers style idea to begin with. Otherwise, it doesn't have to go that way. Just go the original route. That was the original kind of shared universe anyway when they finally started doing the House of movies and all that
tell you
stuff.
the first step in screwing up the Dark Universe: hire Tom Cruise for it.
Well, that too. It was a horrible idea from the start, the way they put it together.
And everything fell apart from there. That was the decision to doom that, and everything else came on top of it. Moving on, narratorjack.com sent us a $4.99 super chat saying, any proof of the 25% different rule in the trailer R2-D2 was there. I think maybe you're using the word rule a little bit too strictly, because in the case of Star Wars, the rule, it's really like there's no like restriction there. The only thing that it means, if the reporting is accurate, and there's an if to it, but if it is, the only thing that means is that a certain different level of difference is where they don't have to pay royalties to Lucas. They can still use it, it's theirs, but at that point is where they no longer have to pay
this is something I brought up to EVS about Ethan Van Sciver, because of course he gets royalties all the time for characters he's created and stuff. And I said, doesn't that make sense that even though he would have sold Star Wars as a whole as the creator of all these characters, he would get a kickback on those? He goes, yeah, there sounds like there could be some truth to that in so many words he said. Yeah. So that's kind of where that comes from. The other part of it is like Robert Meyer Burnett was the one who presented the idea that JJ may possibly get a percentage of the characters and stuff that he creates.
Absolutely, this is true as well. Because, that's like the alternate thing. Like, for instance, if they make a difference, like, for instance, if they put a red arm on C-3PO, that means that royalties goes to them instead, because now they can say that this is now a new original JJ verse character. So just that R2-D2 was there doesn't mean a single thing. Those huge red eyes in C-3PO, those, on the other hand, they do mean something. That means that money for toys with the red eyes C-3PO that goes straight to bad robot coffers, and they do have a fat slice of the merchandise.
That's crazy! Right. Wow.
Yeah, that's how it is.
I didn't even realize that. That's a lot of.
That's of course.
Check out some of our videos covering the merchandise situation on Star Trek, and of course it's different, but much the same applies. And really, the merchandise is what it's all about, because that's where there's so much money there. Like the whole aftermarket. After the DVD and Blu-ray market has collapsed, is all merchandise. That's where the additional revenue is. Like, that's how the studios monetize their movies. It's not just future TV sales and stuff, it's merchandise. Such a fortune in it. And for JJ and Bad Robot, that was actually one of the things why they ditched Star Trek and went with Star Wars instead, because it was a better merchandising situation in it for them.
Yeah, JJ wanted all that. He wanted this empire built around Star Trek with movies, TV, video games, what else? Theme parks, digital entertainment, as you
Well,
call
the
it.
bottom line is there was 2 different Star Treks, whether they want to believe what we reported or not. There's 2 different Star Treks, and JJ wanted the other one killed. So their Star Trek was the only Star Trek. And CBS is like, fuck you. You know, like, this makes us over $40 million a year. You're insane. You know? So he got all pissy about that, yeah.
But not to derail us on Star Trek, do you think that was like Kurtzman's plan? He goes, what if I try to blend the two and confuse everybody?
No, I think where people are misinterpreting our reporting on the Star Trek Discovery is they can do whatever they want, even bring back, they could have CGI Shatner right in front of you on screen if you wanted. They can do anything they want from the original series if they wanted. The problem is if they want to make money off it by selling merchandise, they have to change it. So that's where these changes come in. Wow. I think that's where the misinterpretations are always coming in.
But what I mean is there's this, because Q Storm from Red Shirts had asked me once. He goes, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this to Star Trek?
Money,
and they want this to be the first thing you think about when you think of Star Trek, not those old guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everything they change and everything they make anew is something that they can profit off of themselves, not just the old stuff. And that's where they try to confuse people by throwing in, like that one episode they threw in part of the cage or the menagerie, whichever you want to call it. And it's like, wait a minute, though. These aliens look a hell of a lot different in the series episode than they do in that part. And that was the old Pike, not the new Pike. They're just trying to cause confusion. But as long as, you know, the Telosians and whoever else are 25% different, they can make a figure of it and it would be different. The problem is nobody's buying them. Mm-hmm. And then you got guys like Kurtzman who come out there and try to blur the line of why they're not selling. And this will tie back to Star Wars. I'll get there, don't worry. And they'll say, like, you know, oh, people never bought Star Trek merchandise because the merchandise was always off. You know, that's the idea that Kurtzman's trying to present to people. It's like, no, that's not true at all. There was a huge merchandising, you know, thing in the late 80s, early 90s, especially tied to Next Generation with the figures and stuff like Playmates and all kinds of stuff that was huge bucks for that company. That basically built Playmates between that and Ninja Turtles. Like, they were nobodies before them deals. You know what I mean?
Freaking,
yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Every year Hallmark used to have Star Trek Christmas ornaments. There used to be a collection of Star Trek Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, it started a whole new blitz of Star Trek. Of Star Trek merchandising that didn't really exist before because Paramount was so hit and miss. The Netflix Star Trek Toys That Build Us series hits on all these very well. So what we're going to start seeing with Star Trek or Star Wars is the same kind of crap. They're going to come out there and say, oh, well, the merchandise has never been a big part of it. That's why it's not selling anyway. It's this, it's that, they're going to start making excuses for this crap sooner or later, or they're going to try and make it a little bit more direct because they can't deny anymore that nobody's going to Galaxy's Edge. They can't deny anymore that the toys aren't selling. You know, we used to have to say reportedly. We don't have to anymore because people like Bloomberg and stuff have come out and basically tore the sheet off and said, here, look, it's not doing as well as Disney's trying to say it is. It's a dying franchise, and it's dying faster than I ever could have imagined.
Oh no, Bob Iger came out. Oh, go, Andre. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was going to say that about that Bloomberg article. Words cannot describe how significant that was. Anyone want to care to take a guess why that was so significant?
Because that's the money, people.
That's where you go. Where you want to invest your money in something. Bloomberg.
Yeah, or rather, it's the people who already have invested in Disney. They read Bloomberg. They don't read the Hollywood Reporter. They don't read Variety. They certainly don't watch Midnight's Edge, and they definitely don't read any of the outlets covering the failing of Star Wars. But if that's in Bloomberg, that's going to get their attention. That's going to get back to Iger in a heartbeat. And I'm sure that was tied into what you were about to say, Drunk C3PO.
Yes. Bob Iger, I mean, he came out from his own words and said, yeah, Galaxy's Edge wasn't what I thought it was. The numbers were down. And even the top park executive over California and Orlando
lost her job. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she lost her
Even
job.
if she was a woman, so he didn't care about the optics in that situation.
Well, he gave her a new title, like wine tester executive. So, don't quote me on that, but that's you know how
He's
that
basically justifying her becoming a wino after losing her job.
Specializing in day drinking. Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but they gave her some weird title that was like, "We're gonna put you in an office spot in the back." So
Assistant bench warmer.
There's
First assistant bench warmer.
yeah, that's pretty much.
but there's
I'm
there's a thing about Bloomberg and Lewis Black said about the news. You have that Bloomberg thing in the corner that shows what people are making money, and it's it ain't you. And that's the only time in America when you get people's attention is when rich people lose money on something. And that's what's happening with stuff. Finally, people are going to start paying attention because rich people who've invested in Disney are going to get pissed that, hey, what happened? You told us the Star Wars thing was a sure bet. Well, we don't know what happened. All the analytics said it was going to be a hit.
Oh, we know exactly what
the
happened.
only one that Bob Iger actually answered to are the shareholders of Disney. And the shareholders of Disney, well, they are the ones reading Bloomberg. But before we go any deeper down that hole, let's continue on with some of the super chats before we get to other of you in the comments that have other observations as well. We just have to prioritize the backers. I hope you can understand that. And then we'll get back to the rest of you in no time, I hope. Captain Hare sent us another $5 super chat saying Rian Johnson should have done episode 9. I'm willing to sacrifice Star Wars to guarantee his career burns and he's laughed out of public life. I agree that him doing episode 9 would be a good way of doing that, especially since he already concluded the saga with The Last Jedi. I remember that was the thing that I found the most puzzling after seeing The Last Jedi was I thought this was such a perfect episode 9, such a final conclusion.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
There's still supposed to be an episode 9. What now the hell are they going to do? That was my thoughts, at least. Guys, any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't believe in cancel culture, so I don't necessarily think it should be laughed out of the public eye, but dog food commercials, they need to be directed.
They can do its own original stuff. I'm like thing. I'll let them do that.
Well,
yeah.
I don't think. What do you think? Not to get too off topic, but I think Knives Out's going to tank.
Well, it already made its money back because it pre-sold itself like so many movies do sometimes to make sure that they don't tank. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole that Andre and I could get down, for hours on probably.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, this is just one of those situations where it's going to save face if it does well. If it doesn't do well in the theaters, then it's going to just
We can get back to Knives Out later in the stream, depending on how long we keep on going.
It's one of those things where if it tanks as in the public eye, that's a totally different story.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Moving on. Nikki D sent us a $10 super chat. Thoughts on Feige's Star Wars film? Think he'll prioritize character development or lore/world expansion? Sorry, that's my English failing me. Love you guys. Well, thanks, Nikki.
We love you too.
Yeah. Let's allow our guests to take the first stab at that one. Drunk C3PO, your thoughts on that? What do you think that Feige is going to do with his Star Wars movie?
Oh man, I hope he doesn't make Brie Larson a Jedi. That's all.
Well,
he can do anything but that. Now, I guess at this point, I'll be. Oh my goodness! But
I'm
I mean,
actually going to talk about that a little later.
It's.
We'll get back to that. So
I know it's just a rumor.
I
think he'll turn it into a little high-paced Marvel film because that's just what he does. That's what was successful for him. That's what got him the position where he's at. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. Probably in his mind, and that's probably where he'll go.
Well, it is broken now. That's probably why he's getting it.
That's true. But I mean, in his own, you're absolutely correct. But in his own, when he was in charge of things, how can you come down from having the biggest movie of all time, and then you could just step into a Star Wars film and pretty much do what you want to do. I think he'll jump into some lore stuff. Honestly, there's so much good stuff out there that's already written. All you got to do is go to a bookstore and throw a dart, hit a Star Wars book, and.
Do you think Kathleen Kennedy is going to be sticking her nose in and saying, Kevin, you have to have strong female characters? I'm like, yeah, Kathy, go away.
I think Kevin's got enough clout that KK ain't going to have shit to say on him. And
she didn't say anything to. You think she says something to Ryan, or you think she just?
Oh, he played her like a fiddle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She just was probably no problem. Do what you gotta
think
do.
that they were in complete agreement of what kind of movie they wanted. I think that he went to her and said, you know what, I want a movie that does this and this and this to the old white man, and we're going to have the woman do this, this, and this. We're going to bring in this new character, does this, this, and this. And I think that she reacted to his ideas just like Amy Pascal reacted to Paul Feig's ideas for the Ghostbusters remake.
Yep.
In other words, she absolutely loved it. She said, you know what? Screw whatever JJ was planning. Your idea is so much better. We're going to do that. I think that's what happened.
What pissed Trevorrow off. And I agree. I believe that. I do. And I agree with that because that's exactly what I think happened.
I think we're going to get a book in a few years that's going to say exactly that.
Speaking of books, that's where we've learned a lot of the ins and outs of things was Iger's book. And even though we know that's definitely a positive spin on any of the situation that went behind the scenes, he left out The Last Jedi completely.
Oh, he left out crap loads of stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah. And one thing I think that speaks loads of volumes to the situation at hand behind the scenes was that interview with him from about 6 months ago, Andre, where he said the buck stops with me.
Yeah, that was a year ago.
Now. A year ago?
Time. Yeah.
Okay, so I think at that point is where he really kind of took a lot of control away from KK.
Yeah. I have to add to someone in the comments saying it's a trap productions. You see, we do pay attention. Says I will buy that book. I recommend that book. It's a really good book. The thing to keep
it's not
in
a
mind,
bad book.
Is that it's a management book. It's not his memoirs. For memoirs, you want to check out Schwarzenegger's memoirs. Holy hell, Total Recall. That's a book. That's memoirs.
Now, Andre, you've read the Bob Iger book. I mean, I haven't read it.
So
Tom, you've read it. You say,
I read it.
Drunk. All three of you, would you say that he's making the case? Now, we don't like to get political here, but would you say that he's making the case saying, hey, I have the management skills to run for president?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. There's
I
a lot, because there's stuff in here that he takes credit for and does things that are definitely, like, I wouldn't have took credit for that, but okay.
That's a big resume, though.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I got international relationships. Everybody loves me, basically. I stood up when nobody else would stood up. I took the blame when nobody else would take the blame. I mean, it was just like every chapter was, look what I did. You know,
there's a lot of stuff in there to where it's definitely
it just sounds like a resume.
Yeah.
And he does talk politics in there. He did say, I was thinking about running for president. I sent out groups and all that stuff, and just saying.
No comment. Okay, so
no, absolutely. He's going to run in 2024. I'd put money on it. He can't run right now because he's locked up at Disney until the end of 2021. But come 2024, he's going to make a run for the president. I think that's a big part of releasing this book at all, especially now when we're heating up for the presidential campaign just before a new Star Wars movie is out. This is the time to release that book. This is when it's going to get the maximum exposure, and the revelations that he has in it are mostly relating to Star Wars. Now, there are some things where he's very open about, but ultimately it all puts him in a good view. Everything that he has put in there is put in there for a strategic point of view. It's for maximum exposure during this time, so that he can be brought up with both presidency and with Star Wars.
Now, okay, I haven't read the book. Is there any mention of Indiana Jones in the book?
No, none.
Okay. Shows
Just
you what
No, sorry, I take that back. There is mention of it. And it's the same that I put in the script that you narrated. So I'm a bit disappointed you've forgotten that already, Rob. But basically, the only thing is young Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I narrate so much stuff. It's hard for me to keep track of.
That was the only thing. That's why I forgot about it, because it has nothing to do with the new. And the only Star Wars he really talks about is The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Anything else
No,
is left?
the only thing that he does with says about Indiana Jones is how he greenlit and how he supported the young adventures of Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how he first got a working relationship with George Lucas back in the day.
Because let me tell you something. Everybody talks Star Wars, and yeah, okay, we're here talking about Star Wars, but Lucasfilm also has Indiana Jones, and I think it's reprehensible that we haven't seen anything in terms of even like merchandise. We haven't seen anything out of Indiana Jones. That is a property that is just languishing under Disney. And I can't help but think that Kathleen Kennedy, we had Matt Kadish on. He goes, "Well, you know what? It's Lucas and Spielberg. They're really in the driver's seat of Indiana Jones." But I can't help but think Kathleen Kennedy looked at Indiana Jones and just threw up her hands and said, "What do I do with this? It's a series that stars a straight white man. To her, it's who's the devil." And it's set in a time period where the hero has to be a straight white man, because how is he going to disguise himself in Nazi Germany?
Well, to a point, I get what you're saying, but she kind of built a lot of her reputation because she was the producer on those.
Yeah,
I believe she was like the head producer
on Indiana Jones, actually.
What
yeah,
was
but
I got one better for you, Rob.
What?
It looks like they're going to shut down the Indiana Jones experience in Disney World too.
Well, here's the problem you have is it's not just so much Lucas and Spielberg. I think Paramount still has a big chunk of that too.
Well, they have the distribution.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how much they play in a role of a lot of that. I don't know how much Harrison Ford.
Bought out, like if Disney throws them a couple of $100 million.
Yeah, that's one bit. But there's also I don't know how much Harrison Ford controls as far as his likeness. I know everybody signed off their likeness for Star Wars, so I can't believe that Harrison would have been that quick to sign off his likeness for Indiana Jones.
Well, he
you got me once, George, but not twice.
Harrison loves that character. I mean, he even said that character's dying when I die. No one else.
That's the thing is he's very protective of it. That I know, and that's where
blame him.
Yeah, and as far as I agree with you to a point, Rob, that it's bullshit. We haven't gotten any merchandise. No 4K re-releases of the original films. Like they could have done some kind of co-thing with Paramount.
I think there is a steel book though of the original.
The steelbook ain't shit. All that is they're repacking. We're not going to get into that freaking rabbit hole.
Okay, well,
because Andre knows where I'll go with that crap.
Oh yeah,
well, I know. Yeah.
No, there's not been a new release of Indiana Jones in almost 10 years. The Blu-rays they keep selling are the same damn Blu-rays they've been selling for the last however many years.
Basically the only ones. The only
ones, yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to jump in real quick and say we have over 800 people watching and 100 likes. Can we get some like button?
Yeah, smash that like button, people. Come
on.
What
is going on? Please help us out.
But to put a little bit of perspective on this whole thing, it took a long time to get the last Indiana Jones made, and that was just because Spielberg and Lucas couldn't see eye to eye on the script.
Yeah, I saw them filming part of the car chase scene at the college too. So I mean, that was
it got to a point where, and this was the same exact script that had leaked online way back in 1996 or some crap like that. And I couldn't believe it when I went to the theater, and I'm like, he did it. He did the same script he's been trying to do for all this time. Spielberg just finally gave into it because he changed it from aliens to interdimensional beings. Really? And then you got to think of the other thing here from Kathleen Kennedy's point of view. If you do one now, since they're in actual time, they'd be in the middle of civil rights and feminist movement. So it'd be a perfect time for her to put an Indiana Jones movie out there. So I have a hard time getting in with your theory on Indiana Jones. I think it's more legal hoops. I could be wrong, but that's just
But there was a guy, I don't know who the artist was. There was a guy who did that proof of concept, that animated intro. It looks like an animated intro for an animated series.
And it doesn't make sense to me. That's the thing I'll argue too with you, and I agree with you. And that goes back into Star Wars, to get us back to Star Wars, is why are we not getting series and animated series and things we actually wanted to see? No, because they know we'll watch whatever they throw out there. That's why we're getting a Cassian Andor series. That's why we're, the only one we're getting that's even worth a crap, in my opinion, is the Obi-Wan series. And we can get into that stuff now if you guys want to, too.
Is it called Casio Keyboard?
That's what we used to call it. Yeah.
Before we get to that, though, we just have to wrap up real quick this Iger.
Oh yeah,
discussion.
we got a couple more super chats. I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. One follow-up question from Rivers asked if there is anything, any mention of Ryan Johnson or The Last Jedi in Iger's book. No, there is not one. There also is no mention of the Muppets. There is no mention of the live-action movies that tanked hardcore, like John Carter and
the Lone Ranger and
Lone
Mars
Ranger,
Needs Moms,
yeah,
and all
those,
the other animated movies that tanked.
But boy, does he talk about Black Panther.
That's what I wanted to get into when we get into the other part. He takes almost 100% credit for Captain Marvel in this book.
Yeah, that he does. And Captain Marvel and Black Panther.
Well, Kevin Feige wanted Black Panther, but he basically says, because he says he's got the Marvel Bible, and he zeroes right in on Captain Marvel. So those people who thought that one tweet he did was a joke about turning everything at Disneyland into Captain Marvel, he was not joking.
Iger?
This man, yes, Iger was the man pushing Captain Marvel from beginning to end. So that's why I have a feeling that, that may be a bit of bullshit on the news part. As far as
all that. President Obama called me, and this person called me, and Oprah called me.
On the Black Panther part. Yeah, he said he read it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look, Bob, you gotta get moving on this Black Panther thing, okay? You gotta get moving on it.
So, we got a different narrative on what happened about Ike Perlmutter, and we brought that up in a video, but that's a little off topic here now for Star Wars, since it has nothing to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a little topic. So,
but relevant to Star Wars in the book. Basically, what I thought was funny is how he got everybody on board with all these different properties because of the Pixar pitch. And Marvel, he left alone until he got involved with Black Panther and Captain Marvel, and that's when things started to get a little awry. Star Wars, he left to Kathleen Kennedy instead of stepping in and saying, "No, we did promise George."
In his defense, though, and here, this is one thing that cannot be stressed enough. Basically, what happened was that with Pixar and with Marvel, there were already functional operations in place. In the case of Lucasfilm, there was no operation. Yeah, there was for animation, but that doesn't count. For feature film, there was no functional operation. And then George Lucas made the key mistake of appointing Kathleen Kennedy. And when he did that, there became an operation. And that means that in order to just stand by their own practices, that means that Iger has to take kind of a step back and let Kathleen Kennedy create that operation, although she's not qualified to do that. As it turned out, on paper she should be. In practice, she wasn't.
She's not a creative
he butted in a little bit and did things alongside her. But basically, that was like a perfect storm of things that went bad.
Yeah,
it was a perfect storm because KK. Sorry, Rob, but KK was going to stab George Lucas in the back. That's pretty obvious. She was not going to go forward with this version that he had planned. Hers was going to be the pro-feminine version, and I think Iger was A-okay with that because in his eyes, Captain Marvel was like the way to go with this whole. I don't know where he got this in his head because for some stupid reason, this was the whole reason he bought these two properties was to keep get the boys on board with Disney. Because the one demographic they really didn't have was the young boys. That was the whole reason for Disney XD. That was the whole reason for getting Marvel. That was the whole reason for getting Star Wars. And then for some reason, he got it in his head that he was going to make this turn of events. And I think Me Too scared the fuck out of him. I really do.
Oh, it did. Oh, well, yeah, that freaked him out.
I can't help but think that now. And
I'm not making excuses for him. Sorry, no. I don't mean to sound like that. He was totally on board with KK stabbing George in the back. He basically admits that in so many words.
But now, like I said, now KK's trying to fix everything.
Oh no, Iger's trying to fix it.
I'm sorry. Iger's trying to fix something by saying, but he can't. but he can't fire her because of the optics.
Exactly. Well, not only that, she's got a fucking contract.
Yeah. Well, they like contracts can't be bought out. I mean,
well, what are you going to do? Fire her and still try to make a fucking Indiana Jones movie where she's going to have to be involved anyway?
She's under contract.
Exactly, yeah.
The one right there and stare into the wall.
You have to look at her like Amy Pascal at this point. They're fucking stuck with her.
Go play on
no
the
matter
freeway.
what they do. Yeah.
No. Amy, not.
Well, she's got her craw into Indiana Jones, but
no,
that's
true. That Pascal, they're stuck with her for Spider-Man. This is true.
That's what I'm saying. Is like they could fire KK tomorrow, but they'd still be stuck with her as a producer on Indiana Jones. Now, wouldn't that be a little awkward? Besides all the bad optics, as you're getting into, Andre.
Yeah, very true. Good point. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's exact same situation with Amy Pascal. Made herself unfireable.
Yeah, there was Tom. What was KK had input on Jurassic Park 3, but didn't she have? But didn't she also have some creative input on 1941? What was that?
That was her first movie as a producer.
Yeah,
I don't know how much creative input she had. The problem with that movie was there's a whole
sucked. I mean that
that
was
book
problem.
I just sent you. There's a whole chapter on that movie, buddy, and I'll tell you, I can't get into it all here, but that movie was a movie that basically Spielberg didn't have a vision. He didn't have a clear vision. He didn't know what he wanted to do. He was just coming off of two of the biggest hits he's ever had in his life. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to try a comedy. You know, George did a comedy with American Graffiti, and it worked out for him. And I'm going to get all these funny people together. And yeah, Austin Trench, in retrospect, the 1941 is great. It works as a long, elongated SNL meets SCTV skit show.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work as a movie. That's the problem. You've got a 2.5 hour loud ass comedy, and people weren't used to that shit yet. There was people leaving the theater because they were complaining it was too loud.
It works in part. It works in parts. I mean, you remember bits from it, but as far as overall as a cohesive whole, I really don't think it works that well.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's bits that are funny on their own, but as far as the cohesive whole, I'm like it's not very good.
Well, even Spielberg admits it. He had no vision for it. He had no direction for it. He didn't know what he was really going to do with it. It was just something he was going to do. And Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis came to him with this idea. Oh, there's a Popcast.
Hey, send them a link.
All right.
Do you think?
Hey guys.
Yeah, I keep thinking of that scene though from Animal House, when in the garage, you know, where Tim Matheson's character Otter is talking to Flounder. He goes, "Flounder, face it, you effed up. You trusted us." You know, that to me seems like the whole conversation between Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger now. Kathy, what did you do? You trusted me, didn't you? Well, I you know, it's, you know, Bob's got to fix it now. So,
yeah. Speaking of Bob, I just have to interject real quickly. Robert Richmond sent us a comment. If Iger is deluded enough to run for president, he'll be destroyed. An old capitalist centrist is the last thing the Democratic Party wants now. He'll pull at 1%.
Well,
that's an out. Yeah, sorry. Carry on, Rob.
I'm sorry. I cut you off, Tom. Andre, but actually, it is what the parties. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds in politics. It's what the DNC. It's what the DNC wants, but it's not what the voters want at the moment. The voters want something. They want change. They want populism. Iger would be the ultimate centrist candidate, but running a business
get behind him too. That would also help his.
The donors would get behind him, but he wouldn't be a shoo-in to win the nomination because you need someone who's a visionary now, and you need someone who's a populist. I mean, take a look at what's happened to Joe Biden. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on politics, but he'd be the ultimate candidate for the donors, and running a business isn't like being president. I mean, there is no profit motive.
That, to kind of wrap this up to a little bow, though, he'd be the other side's version of Trump.
Yeah, that's exactly what
he's popular. I think didn't Oprah already say he'd make a good president?
Yeah, Oprah said that she would walk door to door and campaign for him.
So if you got somebody like Oprah, that's the thing is like we've had these conversations, a million times, and like her or not, Oprah's one of those people where if she goes buy this soap, everybody will go out tomorrow and buy that soap. So I mean, it's like
as an outside observer looking in,
not everybody,
but I
but
am
you know
a
what I
few
mean.
times. I think that if Iger were to, he's not going to run now, but in 2024,
It'll be in a few years. Yeah,
I'd put money on him. You know why? Because one thing, he's a capitalist centrist, yes, but there are many of the donors, they be all over a candidate like that. The ones that are like now going saying, "Is this the best we can do?" They'd be all over him, and you'd have all the celebrities and all of Hollywood. They would all endorse him. They'd all come out. Like you would have Beyonce and Lady Gaga and everyone doing fundraisers for him. He'd get so much attention. It'd be like Obama all over again. I think that if he were to run, he'd be a hell of a candidate to beat for the nomination. And what is more, after reading his book and looking at some of the other candidates right now fighting for the nomination, the DNC could do worse.
Oh yeah, I mean, and yeah, just to kind of bring this to close, what we've seen though is a big shift in Star Wars, and that kind of brings us to our next topic. Or did we want to? We should talk about the tickets. Here's a Popcast also sent us. Do we have more super chats yet, Rob or Andre?
Yeah, we have a couple of more. Let's do the Popcast one first. Tom, you can take that one.
Yeah, he says, "Gotta toss us up. Check new Star Wars video, Tom. We'll do that and sent you a link if you're not busy." So
yeah, all right, thanks. And then moving on to the other super chats. While we wait for the Popcast to join us, if time and opportunity permits. Let's see, what do we have in the meantime that we haven't gotten to so far? Yeah, we just addressed Nikki D's question, and then Geeky Candy sent us a $5 super chat saying, "Hail to Midnight's Edge and this great panel." Well, thank you, and hail to everyone. And then Plushy, the Australian dog, sent us a $7.99 super chat saying, "That's right, a talking dog watches your channel as well." What if we had a CGI-like Beowulf with the original sequel trilogy written by George Lucas? Yeah, sure. Why not?
Can't be any worse.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't be any worse.
I mean, here's the thing we kind of pointed out without really saying it bluntly in one of our leak videos is they're basically kind of reverting it to what George Lucas was going to do. And we even have some of the original art where it has a sunken Death Star and a female in a scuba gear going down to the Death Star. And yeah, so there's other elements too that are kind of from George Lucas's drafts. And we've gotten a lot of rumors and even solidified confirmation that he worked with Jon Favreau. So it's almost like a given that phone call was made, right, Andre? The one we've discussed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that phone call, of course, being that they had the right to, or they had it in contract to call George whenever they needed him for consultation, and he's been spotted to be a part of this pretty much since Iger said, "I'm taking over."
Yeah. It was a shame that they didn't go with his draft right away, because although people would have issues with that too, I don't think that they would have had the same issues that we're seeing right now.
No, it at least seemed to pay more homage to the original characters, because it painted, I mean, Luke, I think, seemed like a more powerful Jedi and all that kind of stuff. He wasn't so grumpy and all that kind of stuff. And I can't foresee this whole force projection crap being a part of Lucas's script. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then moving on to the final super chat, at least final so far. Austin Trench sent us a $1.99 super chat. Thank you so much. Where he basically just said that Rian Johnson is, well, or rather, yeah, Rian Johnson, and then is worse than Josh Trank. In parentheses, drunk tank. which is a nice name for him. As anyone who recalls our Trankgate coverage will
He was
recall.
another famous fired Star Wars director, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. He started out being a famous fired Star Wars director. That's how he
That's
learned of his
where
Fantastic Four troubles.
where Rob and I, when we used to say it's no longer a joke when we say that she has fired more directors than she's hired.
Yeah. She's. I mean, what is? I mean, how many directors had? Yeah, she has fired more directors.
Well, if you count, since she had Lord and Miller, she's fired Josh Trank, fired Trevorrow, technically fired what's his face on Rogue One, Gareth Edwards.
Gareth Edwards. Now, does Lord and Miller count as 2 directors or 1?
I count him as 2.
Lord and Miller,
especially since she went and let him go 80 freaking days. Sorry. Anyway, Brian, how you doing?
What's happening?
So, hey, Brian.
How you doing, brother?
I mean, they went 80 days on Solo. 80. That's the moment I got to see that Iger said, "All right, that's enough of this shit."
Well, you guys, give me some context.
We're talking about. Oh God, we're way down a rabbit hole now, bro.
Never mind. I'll wait for the next.
We're kind of where are we at now, Andre?
Well, we had remember that we had our source that told us, not name who the source is. It told us when Lord and Miller were fired, the cast and crew actually cheered.
Yes, and this is a very reliable source. They cheered, and Ron Howard was brought in and did it in like record time. And there's a few other goodies. We'll disperse over time, but yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And that should be the end of that particular rabbit hole. Before we move on, I just want to say on a related note, though, which is like a fun little bit of Midnight's Edge trivia, speaking of fired Star Wars director. Because the first fired one was Josh Trank.
Yep.
And when he was fired, that's when the world first learned of the Fantastic Four troubles. And I'm very, very proud to say that the absolute first channel on YouTube to make that connection between fired from Star Wars, troubles on Fantastic Four, was Midnight's Edge. Not only that, that was the first mini documentary we ever did 1 month into the channel's existence. That's a cool little bit of history.
And because of that information, people here should hit the like button. You're doing a great job.
Hit the like button.
Jay is still awake.
Indeed.
How you doing,
Hit
Jay?
the like button.
No,
with that, I think that we got out of that particular rabbit hole. So before we dive into the next one, which I see that River sent a super chat that we'll get back to in a moment. Brian, how's it going? What do you think about the trailer?
Okay, Star Wars trailer. Started off fantastic. I love that music. It definitely got my member berries going. Then it sort of faded off a little bit. It wasn't as exciting to be honest, it wasn't as exciting as I wanted it to be. I haven't been as excited about Star Wars since the first Force Awakens trailer. When that trailer came out, I was losing it. I was so happy that Star Wars was back. But then Return of the Jedi and Solo, and I'm just not as excited anymore. Now, this latest trailer did bring a little bit of that excitement back. Like, I'm definitely now I'm less curious about the Star Wars universe and more curious as to how they end it, because I feel like JJ is going to try and back up a little bit on what Rian Johnson did, rather than double down. I just actually made a giant video where I suggested that instead of doubling down on Rian Johnson's insanity, I think what he's going to do is he's going to use half that movie as an excuse to retcon half the movie. It's hard to explain, but the whole Palpatine coming back thing, you could definitely tell he's coming back. The main actor did go to D23 that played Palpatine. He's in the trailer. For the love of God, he's in the trailer. So it's happening. He's coming back.
No, anyway, he's in the trailer.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, his voice in the trailer. The actor went to D23, and you see that weird cow. Like, you see someone in a chair or something, right?
What if that's Darth Ray?
What if it's Maul?
Okay, so it's not Maul. Okay, excuse me, F Maul. I don't understand why. I don't want to have anything to do with Maul anymore. Please don't try to bring Maul. But
Well, they set that up in Solo.
God damn, I know you're right. I just realized that, dude. If JJ brings back Maul, that's it. Like, it's over.
Well, it's funny. I just brought that up because we said before they've never really shown us yet, outside of that leaked photo that's supposedly real that Disney is striking, that there is an actual Palpatine in this movie. I said it could just be a hologram in his voiceover, and there was one leak that said that. But anyway, back to your thoughts.
Well, that's possible, 100% possible. It's just a hologram. I mean, what if it's
just cheating us?
It might be a remnant.
Yeah.
It might be a remnant of Palpatine's old software just kicking around. Who knows?
Yeah, that's pretty much what we were saying. Yeah.
My latest theory, it's funny you guys are talking about it today because I literally just uploaded this morning. It's ridiculous. It took me 3 weeks of research. It took me 3 weeks of research, and I think this is my dead set theory, and I'm actually praying this is what I get really close because it would bring back a little bit more excitement for me for the Star Wars universe. And I think that Palpatine is indeed coming back, and I think he's doing it in the most George Lucas of ways via Force transfer. And I think Darth Rey or Dark Rey or whatever you want to call her, Sith Rey, I don't think that's our Rey. That's not the Rey we've been watching for 2 movies. I think that's a different Rey, man. Like a completely different Rey.
Oh, you don't even think it's a vision, like a vision?
No. You see, and you know what, dude? Ryan Johnson mentioned something about that being like her Luke moment. You know, when she was in the cave for Return of the Jedi. No, that's not what it was. I'm almost positively convinced that, and I don't want to kill the video for you guys, but yeah, it's a clone, man. Darth Rey is a clone. Dark Rey, Sith Rey, she's a clone, and that's how Emperor Palpatine comes back. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but dude, I spent the last 3 weeks, me and my brother spent the last 3 weeks researching every piece of Wikipedia, every book, every game, every Rebels and Clones cartoon, and even the written books of the movies, episode 1 through 8, right? And there's different things in the written books than there are in the movies. It's sort of ridiculous. I don't know why, but I'm almost positive that that's the case after 3 weeks of researching this. She's a clone, and Palpatine uses that clone to come back. And you don't have to believe me, but when you have a chance, check that video out. I think if you do, you're going to be like, oh, shit.
There has been clone stuff mentioned in some of the leaks, so you may not be off. So
a lot of clone stuff, bro.
I can't say you're wrong.
A lot of essence transfer stuff. I mean, we've seen that before.
I think you're wrong anyway, to rephrase that.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, respect for the research. Looking forward to seeing the video, and so should everyone of you watching.
Thanks, guy. Yeah, it was insane. 3 weeks. This rabbit. You want to talk about rabbit holes? 3 weeks. I've missed days of my actual job trying to figure out how to unravel this universe. It's actually sort of a mess because there's after George Lucas, there was actually way more writers than just George Lucas before Disney. And then after Disney, there's been hundreds of different writers that have tried to attack this thing. And they don't all, just like Star Trek, they don't all respect the canon. They just sort of write their own canon in Clone Wars, in Rebels. They just sort of do their own thing, and hopefully it all works out. You know? Yeah, and there's Maverick is right. There's a book called Dark Empire, which is not technically canon, but it was written by the same people that wrote the canon for Rebels. I don't know, but if that's the case, then Dark Empire is a good indication that they'll probably be using the cloning technique and essence transfer. I don't know about Dark Rey, but that's how they'll bring Palpatine back. I sound like a giant nerd right now.
No, respect, man.
You're in the right
with the research. Been there, done that. Like, let's just say that the Conan Ultimate Retrospectives, they did not write themselves.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. That's one thing I love about Midnight's Edge, man, is when I found you guys, I wasn't a YouTuber yet. I found you guys, and we were just barely starting to do videos just sort of for fun. There was no research to it. We would just get on camera and just bullshit for an hour, right? And then we found channels like you guys and lore, Star Trek lore, Unloaded or Reloaded or whatever it's called, and we were like, you know what? This seems fun. Let's go down the rabbit hole and try to attack these subjects from like an educated point of view. And 50 videos of that style later, and I almost wish I had not started that process, because now that's what people expect from us. And dude, talking was so much easier.
Welcome to our world.
Than the lore.
Now, research does not do itself.
It does not, man. That's all most of the work. 80% of the work of these videos is the research. It's the narration, great. The editing, great. That's all part of it. But a big part of it is getting it right. Because if you don't get it right, they will find you. They'll let you know in comments, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. They'll let you know you're wrong. So you can't be wrong.
Yeah, no, we were right about it, but oh my god, Tom, Rob, you remember the Star Trek rights video? That damn near killed all of them.
Oh my god.
I was one of those initial people that was like, I don't know how true this is. This doesn't seem accurate to me. And then the more I researched it, I was like, no, these guys did their shit. They did the research. Right, it's correct.
We get a lot of people saying, no, that's not true, but they don't counter it with anything.
Well, you know why? I never said it wasn't true in the comments, because even though I didn't think it was true, because I was like, how can it be true? This is ridiculous. How can
exactly that's like
how
the
can
thing.
A company lose 25? But once you do the research, now, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but there's definitely a rights percentage issue there, and I don't see why it wouldn't be 25%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, we always tell people down a bottle of aspirin before you watch that video. Certainly after,
Yeah,
because that's what we needed to make it.
You guys ever see Always Sunny in Philadelphia? That meme image of Charlie trying to unravel.
Oh yeah.
Dude, that every time I start one of these videos, I feel like Charlie, and I got that board up. I got that mental board. I'm just trying to figure out the pieces. It's so difficult. Oh, by the way, Andre, there's a video you guys just came out with where you open up with, "This is an editorial," and in case you don't know what that means, it's mostly opinion, and you have to make that clear, because
I know people are going to get pissed off with what is to come.
Yeah, dude, I really appreciate that, because I'm like, the fact that you have to even say that is stupid, but you have to, because most people don't even know what an editorial is. They're just going to jump on you for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the difference between the editorials and the mini documentaries. The mini documentaries, we take ourselves out of it. The editorials, there's a bit of me in there, and if there's more of me, well, then I like to emphasize that, especially when I know that people are going to get pissed off at this.
Hey, man, that's the way to go. Yeah. Honestly, that's the exact way to do it right there.
Yeah, that's knowing how YouTube works.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah,
but so to answer your original question, I liked half the trailer, and the other half of the trailer, it was okay.
All right. With that out of the way, let's dig right back into the rabbit hole. And we have a new rabbit hole to dig into, because, give me 1 second here. Oh, we got several super chats. But the first one to dig into the rabbit hole. We'll do a couple of other ones first. Adam Wofford sent us a $2 super chat saying, "Popcast, you mean The Last Jedi, not Return?" Well, stuff like that happens live.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. And
whatever. The Jedi movie that Rian Johnson ruined.
And related to that, Jaybird III sent us a $10 super chat saying, "I said it to Doomcock last night, but here's my theory on how the Emperor survived the explosion of the Death Star. After Darth Vader threw him down the shaft in Jedi, he landed in a lead-lined fridge." Not a bad theory.
Oh, I love that. That's a good Indiana Jones reference right there.
Absolutely. And
then he survived the explosion after that.
Yeah. And Adam Wofford sent this
line.
$5 super chat saying they have stolen the Catan fleet from Hare to the Empire and a clone Jedi Master Jedi that went mad and tried to kill Luke and Leia. Sure, why not? And then Item 69 sent us a $5 Australian super chat saying, here's some dollars for your time and effort on the stream. Well, thank you. We really appreciate that, as we appreciate every single one of you. And we'll try to pick up some more random comments later on. And here's then our next rabbit hole to dive into. Rivers727 sent us a $5 super chat saying, I think the story with Larson playing Ashoka, is that how you say it, is complete and total bullshit. Feige's a die-hard OT fan. Why'd he get involved in the Clone Wars? Okay, guys, Brie Larson playing Ashoka, however you say it. I've never watched the Clone Wars, so I wouldn't know. But anyway, do you think there is something to this? And if so, would you like to see it?
I just watched every episode of Clone Wars this month and research for this thing. And first off, Clone Wars is not as good as people think it is. All right, it's okay at best.
Ouch.
It's okay.
Disagree, but that's okay.
Look, I mean, it's parts of it are really good, but parts of it were clearly made for kids, and it's hard for me to get into it. Brie Larson should be nowhere near the Star Wars universe. She doesn't respect fans. She never in anything she's ever done. There's very little fan respect coming her way. And when you're dealing with Star Wars, Star Trek, these hardcore sci-fi properties, you got to have a level of respect for fans that transcends your actual role. So no matter how well she does, if she's not going to do the fan service, then it's not going to work out.
Yeah, the problem is they don't show respect to the fans. They don't care, so they're just going to do whatever they want. So it's not going to matter.
They think they can get new fans. That's the thing.
It's not going to matter.
They think there's all these people out there who wait in line overnight for iPhones and who shop at Whole Foods and who post on Twitter all the time. I call them the Twitterati.
Hey,
they think
I waited in line for my iPhone.
Well, dude, what are you talking about, Rob? You're talking about the vocal minority. So they're making the mistake of saying, "Oh, look at all these people, on Twitter that are vocal about their support of Brie Larson," but there's actually very few of them. They just don't shut up.
Yeah, and I would say I'm not a big fan of Bill Maher, but he actually said this in reference to something else. Stop trying to please people on Twitter. They're not reality.
Yeah, and there's not very many Twitter people in relation to actual fans. There isn't. It's a small percentage of fans.
You have to trace where this whole thing comes from to begin with. This has been something that's been pushed by, I believe it's We Got This Covered is what they're called.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people call us names, but no, seriously, these guys are flat out tabloid. They make shit up.
What's it called? We Got This Covered?
We Got This Covered or something like that. Yeah, that I believe is the source of this. It's just they're one of these websites where they throw shit at the wall, see if it sticks, and they write 50 freaking articles about it. I mean, Rob knows, we do.
And they hope they get lucky, right? Because if they get lucky, like 10% of the time, and they were right 10% of the time, then they're making money.
Well, it's not just that they get the ad revenue, and then they get
credibility.
The other companies pick this up, like Screen Rant's already running with it and crap like that. I mean, at least they're smart enough to credit these places. But I was just talking about this with Andre before we started the show. There was one article where they were like, "Oh, Punisher confirmed a return."
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And the funny thing with that is that
TV show
the Punisher with
not happening.
Bill Burnett, where they then said confirmed to return. That was the headline.
Yeah, that's not the case at all.
No, exactly. And when you look down in the article, they're basically saying pretty much exactly the same thing that we said in our most recent Kevin Feige Netflix video, which basically these are the rumors that we have heard that we have absolutely no way of confirming in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. This is just what we've heard. Maybe they heard the same thing. That doesn't mean it's confirmed. That only means that there's an intention to bring some select people back. Will John Bernthal's Punisher be one of them? And will Kevin Feige even want the Punisher to do the same thing? Or will he want him to go after vampires or something stupid? I don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be vampires. It's gonna be Blade. That's what it's gonna be. I mean, like I like Punisher.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I
bad,
love Punisher.
but it
Right.
didn't get as many views as it didn't get a lot of play. It didn't get a lot.
Well, the
of
whole
love.
point is the article was saying is that when in 2 years when the license deal is up with Netflix, they can do whatever they want. Then
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Punisher's too vanilla of a character to bring back. And I'm not vanilla when I say like he's
no,
he's
it's-
hardcore, but I'm talking about he's not like a fantastical magical being, and that's what they want in the movies.
Well, just the point of the article was they were saying it was confirmed when it's like nothing has been confirmed.
No, man, they just took her
And the
Instagram
rumor is
picture and threw it up there, and they're like, "Oh, she's holding a lightsaber on Instagram," and so let's just put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, kind of like this whole thing we'll get into after this with the video we just dropped too. But anyway, it sounded like Andre was about to say something, or Rob was. Somebody was.
Yeah, no, basically all I was saying is that in the case of The Punisher, like what we heard is that the intention is for series like The Punisher and the Netflix Daredevil is to drop them on FX and later have them on Hulu because they have the FX network right now, which is like for more adult-oriented fare and they intend to use it, put Marvel
Yeah.
content there as well. That's the hope. That's like what we are very clear is a rumor. Ain't nothing confirmed about it. We can't
And-
confirm it.
and-
We can relay what we heard, but that's
Right.
all.
That's also a reasonable rumor too, because
That's
didn't they
reasonable.
have Legion? Remember that show Legion? That was
Oh,
on
yeah.
FX, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be right up their
Well, yeah. Well, you have to also take a look at what I call certain keywords when these. I mean, those keywords are could be, possibly, maybe, might be. When they whenever they throw a ton of those, whenever they throw those ton of those keywords in, then you say, well, this is speculation. They're not reporting news; they're creating news.
well, yeah, that's half the news. Half the
Oh
news
yeah,
out there right now.
that's the majority of these sites.
We
though.
get accused of that crap all the time, and I'll be 100% upfront with everybody right now. Of course, I'm preaching to the choir. Most of you guys out there listening know this already, but we comb through whatever it is we get. There's tons of stuff we get told that we never reported on.
Most
Because-
of what we're told we don't
Yeah.
report on actually.
That is probably how do I put this? It's probably more believable and real than a lot of the crap you'll see in a lot of these other trades. That's why we have a hard time sifting through all this crap.
Yeah.
We try to do our best to find the source of the source. And I know we say the same things because we have sources, but you got to remember, folks, we're protecting people who are either directly involved with something or close to something involved, and they don't need to lose their jobs. You know what I mean? They're telling us this because they care about these franchises, and we're giving them a solid by saying, okay, we're not going to say your name.
Yeah, and like if they lose their jobs, on from a selfish point of view, you can't get any more inside leaks, man.
Well,
So why
there's
would
that
you-
part too.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, it's an air of respect as well, and that's
Right.
a big part of it.
We
'Cause a lot
get
of
so
these
many
people- yeah.
messages. We get so many messages too, with really insane theories. People just say straight up, like, "I work here, and this is what's happening." And I'm like, I don't know how accurate it is. Like, when we have a source that we actually like use in a video, and we don't say it's an editorial, we say it's a fact. Like a recent one, it's because we know that source is actually connected to the video. They sent us a leaked photo or leaked whatever. We know.
Well, yeah,
this
and
is
you'll get that
legitimate.
especially in the Star Trek community,
Mhm.
because you'll get a lot of people who are, well, I worked on that show and it wasn't anything. Like, yeah, well, okay, that's fine, but our source is pretty reliable too. I get what you're saying, but you might be towing the company line, or you just happen to work on a day that it wasn't like that, or a department
Right.
that doesn't have that problem. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not going on. And I love it, especially when the ones that are working, they say, well, I'm in the special effects department and nothing like that ever happened. It's like, dude, you work in a department full of computers. When were you on the set? When were you in the writer's room?
Right.
When were you in any of these things? I've got
I heard
people,
the janitor when he was cleaning up the set.
right? It's like, okay, I get it. You worked for the show, but you worked for the show after it was already in the can, buddy, and you weren't a part of anything else. You know,
dude. We have a really big this really big source for the Orville. He's a really good dude, and he actually tells us explicitly, I'll tell you what's happening, but you actually can't say anything. So we get a bunch of great information about the Orville all the time
too, but it's good stuff, and they tell us we can't say nothing.
Yeah,
that's
we're not allowed to say anything.
But that's one of those things where people say, "Well, don't you get good stuff, and why don't you report?" Well, we do sometimes, but very rarely. And when we do, it's stuff like that. It's because everything's working so well, and it's a well-oiled machine, and somebody just wants to tell us something because they're excited. And they're that close to it. Like, there's people all the time that tell me that. It's like, I can't run with that because they told me not to. Not just that, but it's I don't want to ruin the surprise for people.
Yeah, we got a heads up on season 3 of the Orville, their announcement, and he only gave us the heads up so that we can be prepared to do video stuff. But he said that you can't actually release anything until it was like days. It was like 2 or 3 days after the announcement, but you could at least be prepared to release it. So, that was nice, and we don't want to lose that relationship, right? So we're not going to blow it.
Exactly. That's also really important. When someone confides in you, then you have to respect that by one, shutting up about where it came from, obviously, and the other is if they tell you can't share this until time so and so. Well, then you really can't do that, and that's of course is provided that you have vetted that you're doing, that you're dealing with something legit. But what we basically, and every time is we always masquerade it behind rumor. Sometimes the rumors that you must treat as rumors, things that we know are accurate, but we cannot independently verify it, not without blowing our source.
Yeah,
and then rumor it is.
Well, dude, another guy in the Orville community, he didn't listen to our mutual source, and he blew it like the day before the announcement, and that guy was completely cut off. He's not getting any love because he broke their trust,
Exactly. Exactly, because then basically they use you to get the word out there.
Right.
I just quote Tom, and if Tom's wrong, I say, well, he told me. So go to him.
But what if Tom said,
all Tom's fault.
Don't share it. Don't share it until a certain time. That's when you got it.
I never hear Tom say that, but that's okay.
I'm usually pretty
good. He didn't want us to talk about experience till after the experience is over. He actually didn't want to blow it to people.
I love to talk shit, and don't get me wrong, but most people will know when I get into serious mode. It's like I'm very careful about what I say when I can't say something. So,
as you've got to be.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah, we've done it. We've got a pretty good track record, I'd say, of trusted, inside sources and people that really care about what we do here and know what we're really up to, and that's why they feed us this info. Like there's a good example. That's why we ran with the whole Star Wars was still shooting. Now they may be done now, and I have a good feeling that they are done now, pretty much for the most part. That's why we got a trailer last Monday. But
final trailer, right?
Yeah, but when we were told this information was when we were getting told by other sources that they're still shooting, and not just reshoots. They're like full on shooting. Like, and the reason I believed our source is because the way it was told, it was like they were bragging that they were using this technology. So it's like, that sounds to me like they accidentally leaked that they were still shooting. So those are the ones that you really got to kind of latch on to and like, is this real now? And that's where I kind of presented it to Andre, and he's like, yeah, I think so. Kind of thing. I mean, that's not exactly how it went, but something to that effect.
Is Rose Tico in the new movie?
Yeah.
Didn't you see her in the trailer?
She's in the last trailer, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was looking for that, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, you probably didn't recognize her because she how do we put this politely?
She's wearing a new potato sack.
Yeah,
she's wearing.
And she appears to
it looks like she went to Golden Corral for a week.
Oh God! I bet you that. I bet you it's like a.
more body positive.
It's like a second. It's like a second clip. I'm sure. I remember
How
looking.
dare you body shame her?
No.
How dare you?
Oh, yeah, I'm not
Nothing wrong with
biased.
the Golden
No.
Corral. I'm just
I don't
saying.
care what she looks like. I didn't like any of the scenes she was in for the last movie. The whole like weird side story. Well, I'm gonna call it a side mission where they freed all the alien horses or whatever on the casino planet was just a waste of time. It was 100% a waste of time.
And not for nothing, way to reinforce the stereotype of Asians being bad drivers at the end. I mean, that was,
I didn't realize that. That's sort of what they did,
Uncompetitive had a good comment here. Rose is pregnant with Finn's baby. Yeah, could be.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sure, why not?
Oh my! Please don't even start that rumor.
Did you guys see that George Lucas deep fake? His reaction?
That was hilarious.
Oh, it was so good.
I don't think Andre's seen it yet, though. Have you?
Oh, it was so good. Andre, after this, you gotta check it out.
Yeah,
man.
after this we're done, we're gonna have to show that to you.
I thought it was gonna be some vanilla nonsense that didn't matter, but first off, it looks good, it sounds good, and the actual writing of it, the words
this guy
he's
puts my
hilarious.
George Lucas. This guy puts my George Lucas impression to shame.
It sounds just like George Lucas, and he's like, "Oh, I like this first part with my name." It's so good, man. Oh man, it was great. Who did that? Collider? Who did
Collider,
that?
yeah.
Collider produced it, but they got some comedian in there. I'm not exactly sure who he is, but I looked him up a little bit just to kind of figure out. But I'm like, okay, all right, I kind of see what they did here. But it was,
Wow,
it was
they
an
did good.
interesting thing.
I normally don't like Collider, but that was pretty good.
That's what everyone keeps saying. I normally don't like Collider, but that was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Collider.
I don't like Collider either.
I stopped watching Collider when Campia left, and then I stopped watching Campia when he left Collider. I just sort of stopped watching Collider and Campia when they broke off.
Well, they're back together again.
Oh, is Campia back with Collider?
Well, Christian Harloff's coming back to Campia. Does that count?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Well, the
it's a
reason I stopped watching
Harloff
Collider was because
Collider
Christian
12.
Harloff. Christian Harloff was like my major problem with. So when John Snepp died, that was a bummer. I was a big fan of John Snepp. When he died and Harloff took over, I was just totally disinterested. So like Harloff is, half the reason I just sort of stopped watching Collider.
Oh, well, you can start watching again because he's left Collider now. And if you weren't
Oh.
watching Campia before, then, well, there's no need to begin now because now Harloff is joining Campia for some
Yeah.
reason.
Thanks.
They're coming back together.
Yeah,
I think Harloff's preemptively almost out over there. I think they're just riding out his contract. It's just speculation, but remember that little meltdown he had?
Yes,
I think he
remember.
got shit canned for that.
I worked hard at being a Star Wars fan. You know how hard I worked being a Star Wars fan.
Oh, boo-hoo. Oh, God, I hate that so much.
I just got to say real quick, we have a member of the Fandom Menace community who's a good friend of the channel. Somebody reminded me again. I was going to say this anyway near the end, but we'll do it now while we're in the middle of it real quick, and I'll do it again at the end. Captain Robert April was in a really bad accident recently. I'm putting the GoFundMe link in the chat. If you guys can help donate or share, that would help them out quite a bit. So all the details are on the GoFundMe for that. But the link's in the chat right now. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. Help out Captain April. That's a great guy. So all got to chip in to help him.
So yeah, if you guys can, if you can't help monetarily, then the least you can do is share it because you never know. 5 of your friends, maybe they could. So.
I love this first comment on her. Who else am I supposed to fight with over Star Trek on the internet? It's great. Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad because he's a really good friend of the community. So if you guys can help him out, that helps him out. He's doing a little better from what I heard, but he's still in rough shape. As I said, a lot of the details are on there, so do check that out. So if you get a chance here. So yeah, back on topic. did we have any more super chats, Andre?
Yes, we do. We do have more super chats. Shall we see? Fan addicts of film, relating back to the most recent topic. Rose, the most inconsequential yet the most famous of the sequel trilogy. This shows us where we are. And he sent us a $5 super chat along with that comment. Yeah, I agree. That's how it shows where we are. And Adam Wofford also sent us another $5 super chat saying, how are they going to explain vampires in the MCU and not having them already known, and Blade should be R-rated movie or TV series?
Oh, Blade will be. Blade will be
No,
R-rated.
it's PG-13.
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been saying this since the start. I knew about this
R-rated.
before it was announced.
Yeah,
It's gonna
we have some inside knowledge on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be as hardest PG-13 as they can.
How do they make a PG-13 Blade? How is it
They're-
even possible?
Here's the thing: if you take out like some of the swear words and
No
some
blood.
of the worst gore out of the other Blade movies, you could probably get away with a PG-13 now. Kind of like how you could almost get away with PG-13 for Deadpool if you just took out all the F words, and except for one where you have this ongoing joke where he can only use it one time in the movie or something like that. You know what I mean? And you could get away with doing it PG-13 and it still be close to it because they'll allow more violence and gore than they will swearing. That's the thing.
That's true.
PG-13, you can get away with a hell of a lot more than you used to. The swearing and the nudity is where they've cracked down.
You know,
Like it used to be, you could get away with a few F words and some boobs in PG-13. Now you only get like allowed one as long as it's not sexual connotation. That's about it.
so I watched the Christmas version of Deadpool, the PG-13 version,
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. But
and you know it's not bad, but it definitely felt like part of the soul was lost from Deadpool. I don't know.
I need
Part-
help finding out.
the reason that Joker was rated R was more because of the swearing and because of the realism. If it's something that's less realistic, it's more apt to get a PG-13.
Interesting. Hey guys, 1 second. I have a problem.
No problem.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, there you go. Breaking scoop. Speaking about it and inside sources.
But yeah, we knew from the start it was going to be, and they were trying to work out a deal with Wesley. Still sounds like they might for some kind of villain or something like that, but that's been out there from other sources too. So
Yeah.
you never know.
Yeah, and so we got another $5 super chat from Fan Addicts of Film. Campia, Johnson, Harloff used to work together on Collider. Yeah, they did indeed.
Robert Meyer Burnett has had some connections with them in the past too. Yep.
Yeah, he was also on Collider by way of Schnepp.
Yep.
I would say that's the best Collider ever had was Collider Heroes.
John
with
Schnepp and Robert Meyer
Burnett.
Burnett. Oh god,
Fantastic! My God, that was
I
brilliant.
miss Schnepp every day. Like yeah. Anyway, not to get off on another track. Next super chat, so we can get into the other.
Oh no, I think we're up to speed.
Okay,
now.
we're up to speed now. Okay, well, other than the Bree
I believe
news,
we're up to speed.
which I think we're all pretty much in agreement that it's most likely bullshit. I don't know. Drunk, did you have anything more to say about that since you brought it up earlier?
Nope. I think we covered everything pretty well.
Rob,
No.
did you have anything more to say on the Bree situation other than it's probably
Nah,
BS?
she's got a movie coming out, doesn't she? Which is why probably you're seeing it now.
Yeah, there's
How
all-
ticked off
yeah.
would you be if he brought in Avengers in his Star Wars movie?
I'd be very happy if he. You mean just the actors, or?
Yeah, just the actors like Chris Evans, because they all tweeted like, "Hey, call me to be in the Star Wars." Like, you know, I'm sure it was a joke, but
No, I think they meant it completely serious. I mean, they're actors; they'd love to be in something like that. Like, and there's no rule that says that thou shalt not be in more than one franchise or something. In the case of Chris Evans, I mean, he already has 2 Marvel characters behind him. Like before, he was Captain America, he was Johnny Storm in that shitty Fantastic Four movies, or in those shitty Fantastic Four movies. Would he like to be in Star Wars? Oh hell yeah, I'm sure he would. And if he was, I wouldn't mind. I think I'd be okay with that, as long as they're good for their parts. If they're so good that I forget that they did something else, If I see them on screen and I only see, for instance, Captain America now waving a lightsaber, that's going to suck a little bit, and I'd rather have someone else. But if it's a role that they're so good in that you can't see them as anything else, kind of like, again, Chris Evans as Captain America. He was so good as Captain America, you can completely forget about this Johnny Storm from before. If you can do that again with Star Wars, I'm all for it.
Sounds good.
That's my thoughts, at least.
All right. And then we did have another super chat come in while you were talking. $5 from Drake is 6, I think is what it's supposed to be. The Rise of Skywalker, I think they're doing a lot of dialogue reshoots so that it will feel like an old Steve Reeves movie. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm sure they're doing everything they can to fix it at this point, if there's any reshoots going on right now. I mean, that aside, the trailer came out. They did start to sell tickets, so they're at least anticipating it hitting theaters on December 20th as planned.
Yeah. I have to completely agree with. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to say before it disappeared from my side, I have to completely agree with the Fessman93 in the comments, who says, "I hope Weird Al does another spoof on Disney Star Wars." My God, his episode 1 thing, like that parody on American Pie.
Long time ago.
My God, it was so good. It was better than the movie.
It was indeed, in a lot of ways. Yeah, it'd be nice to see him do another Star Wars parody. We got another super chat, $5 from Fanatics of Film. In Harloff's defense, he was saying Solo sucked when everybody else was praising it. Yeah, but I think that whole rant on the air was like the end of his stint there, I have a feeling. As soon as his contract's up, I think he's out. But that aside, we did a story the other day, isn't that right, Rob, about this whole business of Star Wars breaking ticket sale records in its first day already on its way to smashing Endgame.
Yes, smashed. Yes. This 6 for the first hour. Woohoo!
Hulk not feel very smashed.
In 1 hour.
That's how low the bar is. They have to set some kind. Everything sets a record now.
The first hour only on Adam.
Only on Adam, which is co-owned by Disney,
of course,
and which J.J. Abrams is an investor.
Wow,
So,
that
yeah.
doesn't sound fishy at all.
No, there was this narrative going around, and everybody was trying to say before, and another one we kind of said, yeah, we don't really buy that. And this time I really don't buy it, and that is that Disney bought a bunch of tickets. If they were trying to pad these numbers, they did a piss poor job of it. Because it didn't break any records. Endgame still has the 24-hour record, and there's a million variables that we didn't even get into in our video on how much of a record Adam has going for it on the first hour even. Because from what I recall, people were pointing out, because I couldn't verify, that's one of the reasons why it's really not in there, is I believe that Endgame tickets went on sale at like 5 a.m.
Excuse me.
If anybody remembers or not, but like I guess Endgame tickets went on sale at like 5 a.m. and these tickets went on sale at like noon Central Time. So, yeah. And then Adam is not Fandango. Fandango's the number 1 used pre-ticket sales app, or whatever you want to call it, website in America. And they're the only record that The Rise of Skywalker broke was it's the fastest selling Star Wars movie at this point. That's it. It sold more tickets in the first 24
but boy,
hours.
did they get those news articles out quick enough to.
But yeah, that was kind of the point of our video, was they were quick to really push this news and get it pushed. And that's where I also don't. Thanks for that, Jay, because that's where I was kind of going with this. That's where I also don't believe this.
Sorry, boys, my dog got out.
That's all right. That's where we also. Yeah, who let the dogs out? Who? That's where I also don't believe this idea of Disney buying tickets, because if they did that, then they did a piss poor job of it. And not only that, it was like Jay was saying, I think they were expecting people to go out and buy these tickets because they pushed this narrative in the news. And then you're like, oh, I got to get tickets because they're going to be all sold out. And then people are going and realizing that, well, they're not selling out so fast. And we've even brought up a few other reasons why that is, because everybody's just starting to use their phones now to pre-sale and buy tickets. It's becoming more of a common thing in America now to have assigned seating, where I've learned from Andre, where it's always been a thing over there, where I'm like, oh, no, over here. It's first come, first serve.
I was shocked to learn that you don't have that.
It just kind of
Yeah.
started to be more of a thing with like the fancy theaters and
About time.
Yeah. And
So
the prepaid.
for me, it's been that way for 4 years, all because of Century. Century is what gave me assigned seating around 4 years ago, and I've been a member of Century since then. $8 a month to get my assigned seating and my 20% off of concessions.
Yeah. Isn't that so much better? Wouldn't you have liked to have that the whole time?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But
Yeah,
in my mind, I was like, okay, so for $8 a month, I get 20% off of everything, and I get to pick my seat anytime I go. If I just go to the movie once, it feels like it's worth it. Just one time with two people, it's definitely worth it. Like, it pays for itself.
Yeah, there's that variable, plus the fact that I noticed over the past just year alone, and I brought this up to everybody pretty much here, I think, except for maybe Jay and Brian on a podcast before in private. I've noticed how what did I say, like earlier this year when Captain Marvel came out, there was only two or three other movies showing at the same time. Then when Endgame came out, there was only like one or two other movies showing. And then when Joker came out, there was no other movie showing. They had every single theater showing the Joker. So you tell me how that is. Here's the difference. It's like Rob said in the report we did. Nobody's getting turned away from these movies. Anybody who wants to see these movies on opening day is going to get a chance to see them. And that's what they want. They want that big number. They want that number going into the weekend. So everybody thinks, oh, I got to go see this because everybody's going. Or I'm not going to be able to see it. Or I'm not going to be able to get in. Or, however you want to say it. So, Rob, let's start with you since you're right. Or do you want to start with Andre? Andre, let's start with you.
I can have I'm just going to refer to Combi Chan's comment, which I highlighted, where Atom has like 25% of the seats in a single theater. I guess that's like a speculation and not something that she knows, but to me that seems very plausible. Like if they're I don't know how it works over there. Like here in my country, you just go to like the cinema. There's only one place to pre-order tickets from, and that's basically from the cinema itself. In the case of Odeon. Or from basically the Union of Oslo Cinemas in the case of Oslo Cinemas in general. That's like there's no other place. If you have like Fandango and several other operators, to me it stands to reason that they split the tickets between them. And then I guess that Atom only has like 25%, may even be pushing it if they have 25% of the seats. Maybe they have like 15% of the seats. If they then sell out their 15% to that fast, that doesn't really say much, does it, before you get like Fandango with the remaining 85%?
Well, I actually know how it works with Cinemark, and it's no longer percentage based, so they're connected now. So Cinemark, Fandango, Atom, when you buy from these websites and you're not buying directly from the theater or whatever, they're connected to the same database now. So when you start a ticket purchase on Fandango for a certain seat, it actually grays out that seat on Cinemark for, I think it's like 3 to 5 minutes, something like that. It gives you 3 to 5 minutes to check out. If you don't check out within 3 to 5 minutes, then it frees up again. And they're all connected now. So there's no more percentage based. That was like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they would give a certain amount of tickets to certain companies that can sell. Now it's all connected to the same database. At least here it is. I don't know about other places, but here, that's the way it works.
Here's one I got to address. A dude's thought says, I could not get in to see Wonder Woman. It first came out, and a friend of mine had trouble getting in. I think Warner Brothers misinterpreted how popular Wonder Woman was going to be.
Absolutely. Wonder Woman was one of the movies I had a hard time. So the last 3 movies, I've gone to every single movie in the last 3 years that was a blockbuster, especially nerd stuff. And the only 3 movies I ever had a problem getting into was Wonder Woman, Endgame, and the most recent one was Joker. Those are the only 3 movies that, in all the insane amount of options I have, where I'm at, there are like literally 150 theaters. I should never have a problem finding a seat in one of these theaters. But
no, and then they open up more theaters. Yeah, the more tickets they sell, the more they open up.
Right. Those 3 movies, though, I could not go opening day. I had to go at like 2 in the morning the next day or something like that, and that was with trying to pre-buy tickets. So they totally misjudged how popular Wonder Woman was going to be. 100%.
Yeah, and I don't think at that point, that was like, what, almost 2 years ago now?
Right.
Yeah, and that's what another point we were bringing up is that in the video, everything's going to keep breaking records no matter what it is, just like Solo did, just like Ghostbusters did, just like any other movie did when it comes to these pre-sale records, because...
Ghostbusters broke
Yeah,
records?
Ghostbusters broke a few records too. It doesn't matter because anybody who's going to go see these movies, that's where there's like any like desire, they're going to buy them online right away because they think they're going to sell out.
I didn't even know Star Wars was pre-selling. That's interesting.
Well, that was kind of the big lead up to the trailer.
Oh, I should go check that out. Can we go back to Ghostbusters real quick? How does
Sure.
Ghostbusters sell out anything?
Well, that was more to do with the hidden agenda of the article's headlines. It would say, "Oh, it's breaking records already." The only record it broke, I think, was the pre-sales in comedy for the first day. But that led right into what Rob was saying in the report was, every day that goes by, more and more people are getting smartphones and they're using their smartphones to do these kind of things. So everything's going to continue to break records until it levels out. Kind of like when DVDs came out. Every single movie that came out broke the record for the highest selling DVD until everything kind of leveled out. Then you kind of seen the cream of the crop start to rise. Then you could kind of use that as some kind of gauge of something, like to say, oh, well, this movie didn't do well in the theaters, but the DVD sold well. They couldn't say that until the thing was around long enough for it to be a verifiable.
Yeah, the market had to mature a little bit. It's like only when the market is mature that you can say that. Before that, it's just a sign of a growing market. Everything is going to grow no matter what.
Right. How fast do times move? I have a friend of mine on YouTube that does a show called Blu-ray Therapy, where he goes into like big box stores and buys Blu-rays for $2. It's incredible how fast everything's moved. Like everybody's just like walking away from physical media. He literally goes and buys Blockbuster Blu-ray physical media for like $5 out of discount bins. It's incredible.
Yeah, and that's going to be people's losses, because that way it was the only way where you actually owned the movie yourself.
Yep.
With physical media.
Yep.
Whereas with everything else, you basically just rent, and the company can take it back anytime they want. That's the risk for cable cutters.
I don't even own a Blu-ray player.
Sailing at the high seas. That's the only way to avoid that.
Right. I don't even own a Blu-ray player, but I still buy Blu-rays of my favorite movies, and I just have them packaged up.
I just can't stand that. I mean, I just can't stand the whole justification. A lot of people like streaming, and they always say, and this especially goes with video games. Oh yeah, I just don't want to get up off the couch to change games. I'm like, it's such an effort to walk a couple feet. Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you something though. The whole physical, especially when it comes to games, console games, having the physical game is so important, because I bought digital versions of Mass Effect, and I literally can't play them now. I can't play them because the second I upgraded my console, the digital version didn't cross over with me, or didn't work on that version. And buying the physical version of that game, I can now play it. It's especially for games. They're $60. Get the physical version, for the love of God.
Well, and they're trying to work around that on you as well, though. That's the other problem is that's not always the case. So I have to preface this that yes, after time they will generally send you some type of patch, if not to play the game offline. But that's, as far as I know, I've heard it's been a long time before that happens. I don't have any games that's happened to yet. You pretty much have to pay to be online to play these games, even if you have a physical copy. That's the problem I'm running into.
Right. Yeah, with the new Xbox, that's the way it is, which I think is stupid.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much like you have to pay Netflix to watch all your content too. I mean, that's the same thing. Well, no, not really, but kind of it is.
Hey man, that's why PC Master Race. That's where I play all my games on PC, the Steam store, and I don't even have to be attached anymore. I can go offline mode and just enjoy my single player game.
Oh well, even that has its drawbacks. So, freaking,
it does.
Yeah, that's the beauty with being a retro gamer like me. Like my Sega Mega Drive, that Sega Genesis to you in the US.
There you
it's
go.
Always reliable.
Right.
Never been an issue with it.
Right?
Hey man, I got a PS1, I got a Dreamcast, I got an NES, I got an SNES. I have all these old. I able to collect these old retro game things. Never hook them up. I hook them up for like the first couple days, and then forget about them for like a year and a half. But I have them all, man. They're all sitting in my closet.
Yeah, as Sebastian Simonson says, back to Star Wars. Here's the thing: Star Wars, I think, is going up against what 3 movies now because they just announced, or at least 3 big movies, because they just announced what was that other movie that just got moved up? Tom and Jerry. Warner Brothers is going to dump Tom and Jerry against Star Wars now.
There's a Tom and Jerry movie.
Yeah, or wait, no, I'm wrong. Isn't it only 2 movies? Because Jumanji doesn't open up till the week after. So there's Tom and Jerry, and there's that one other movie I can't remember what it is that's opening up against Star Wars now. And
Who has the balls to go against Star Wars?
people
Warner Brothers.
Counter programming.
Yeah.
Cats. That's the other one.
good
Cats.
for,
I couldn't remember the other one. Cats. Yeah.
But that shows you, though, that nobody's afraid of it anymore.
Right.
To a point, but at the same time, it might be just dumping ground. Because if it loses out that bad, guess what, folks? And of course, this is just me. I have to preface this with this speculatory kind of thing. There's like insurance outs if a movie goes so bad and shit like that. So like, I'm sure there's a strategic move there. The movie's either really bad or it's really good.
Oh yeah, you can dump it and collect the insurance. I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, so it's either really bad or really good. So
And sometimes there's just no other time to release it. You know, there's just no other.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know about that. I think they're just playing. There's some kind of strategic move here.
January and February are great months to just drop something where you don't want any competition. I mean, if
Cats
you want
is
to be
alternate
successful.
programming. Tom and Jerry, like I said, either that movie is better than we thought it could be. And
Have there been any trailers for it? For Tom
not
and Jerry?
yet. Not yet. So I can't say. So that's
Is it
what I'm saying.
Is it animated?
It's live action, but I believe obviously Tom and Jerry are animated.
I mean, like Garfield style hybrid.
Yeah, like 3D animation in real life, yeah, kind of thing.
I don't know why, but that seems very interesting to me.
Like I said, maybe they seen something in this movie because it's getting bumped up like 2 or 3 months.
What?
I can't remember the original date, but it was
to go
originally
against Star Wars. That's
to go
awesome.
against Star Wars. So either it's just that bad, or maybe it's better than we thought it could be.
Yeah.
Or it
talking
could
about
be that
cats?
they're counting on the Phantom
No,
Menace
Tom and
really
Jerry.
taking full effect here and
Maybe.
and keeping people away from Star Wars, and then they need something else to go to. And if they really have faith in Tom and Jerry, then I can see that as successful counter programming.
Yeah,
I
Either
can't
they
imagine
really
it's
have faith.
good, but-
Either they really have faith in it and they think it's gonna be great, or they think it's gonna just bomb horribly.
I
and
think
can
they
blame it
think
on
it's
Star
going to
Wars.
bomb. And be honest, I think that, yeah, because here's the thing. It's not Flintstones. It's not the Jetsons. If it was one of those two things and they were bumping up a Flintstones movie against Star Wars, then I'd raise an eyebrow and go, whoa.
Oh God, give me a
Maybe they
Jetsons
think
movie.
they've got something good here that we didn't really think about. You know what I
Any
mean?
day of the week. Any day of the week, give me a Jetsons movie, please.
That
Those
would
are
be
the-
cool.
Yeah. Because those
God,
are the
that'd be
only
so
two
great.
things I could see coming out of that camp, which would be the Hanna-Barbera camp that could even remotely compete with Star Wars, but they had to be good.
Yeah, my God, Jetsons could be amazing though. If you go full retro futurism,
Oh yes. Oh God, yes. Retrofuturism.
And that would be a perfect one to upset
retrofuturism is
Star
tight.
Wars, because they know they
So
wouldn't
good.
get first place. But if you come out of that weekend with a decent, retro / good Jetsons movie, and it makes like 40 million up against Star Wars' 105, 110 million, oh, would that be a dent in Disney's skin?
Oh yeah. Of Jetsons, Jetsons. Made the great Star Wars franchise bleed just once. Ooh. Jetsons. I'm all about this Jetsons. If the Jetsons movie ever happened, oh my God, I would be the
We're
first
getting
person
off
to buy a ticket.
way into left field, but I know Rob
Sorry.
want to say something about this, but yeah.
about
Sorry,
the Jets.
sorry.
Yeah, you kidding me? I'm looking at my Jetsons complete series now, and I'm thinking,
You're welcome.
yes, I am. You, thank you very much, Tom, for that. But I just keep thinking, please, I want to see a good Jetsons movie. It was
Oh,
sometime in the very near future.
A live actions Jetsons movie, please.
But it has to be proper retrofuturism.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
That's my one
Exactly.
requirement.
The
Well,
future
you
of the
said-
1960s.
Yes, exactly. It cannot be the future of today. It must be the future of the 50s and the 60s.
Yes,
Like the
which is
future-
arguably the best future. Okay,
Yes.
those
The
are the
future-
best future.
The only
fut-
better future was the future of the 30s. That
Yeah.
was better still, because that's when you had like the V2 rockets type spaceships and everything. You still had some of that in the 60s, but there was like more flying saucers. Like to me, the proper retrofuturism is the era when Asimov started writing his robot stories and everything.
Hell
That's
Yeah, basically, like or
So
hate
true.
the movie,
Like
like or hate the
New
movie,
York-
but oh, go ahead, Rob.
I would say the retro future of the New York World's Fair of 1964.
Well, I was
Yes,
gonna say,
exactly.
like,
yes. There you
like
go.
or hate the movie, basically, as long as the same production goes in, the production attention goes into the movie as the Flintstones movie did from 1994. If you like the movie or not, that's irrelevant here. The production value of that movie was spot on 100%. They
It
got
was
everything spot. I could watch that
You're right.
movie whether you like the movie or not, because everything is just so beautifully captured in live action.
You know, it was
Even the
Flintstones.
intro,
It was
just the
Flintstones.
intro sequence and the reproduction of the animated intro. That's how you freaking do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that for that.
Yeah. Like I said, the whole retrofuturism of the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. I mean, yeah, and you dig it, Andre, too. When you fly into New York, when you actually drive into the city, you have to go past the fairgrounds. You still see the stainless steel globe, the Unisphere that's there. So
Yeah.
you dig that.
I'll be sure to do that next time.
That's the reason I'm a sci-fi nerd,
yeah.
right there. Was that style? When I was a kid, I grew up reading Asimov and dreaming about going to Disneyland when Tomorrowland was actually fun. You know, yeah.
I keep
love
saying though, I mean, the Jetsons. The Jetsons get me kind of pissed off because it's 2019. I still don't have a SkyPad apartment, a robot maid, or a flying car. Damn it!
True that, man. I want my robot maid. In this day and age, though, the robot maid would be such a controversial.
Yeah,
thing.
here's Rob's robot maid. I love you, Mr. G, but would you really pick up your dirty socks?
Exactly. Boy, these 3-hour work days are killing me.
3-hour work days.
All right, back on topic.
Back on track. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not so sure about this Disney buying business. Somebody's supposed to be sending me some info on that, so I'll check into it for sure. But if they're doing it, then that means that if that's the case, then that means nobody's really buying tickets. Because if they only made that little bit of a bump, I mean,
I don't know. I've been stuck in an editing bay for the last 2 weeks.
well, yeah, that's basically the bottom line of the video that Rob and I just worked on, was that the only record they broke was on Adam and Adam alone, and that was for the first hour. They sold more tickets than Endgame. Other than that, but when the dust settled at the end of the day, Endgame was still on top for the #1 sales in a day.
Well, I just checked on my phone, and there's plenty of seats.
That's what I'm saying. Well, not only that, they're going to open up as many theaters as they can as we go
Right.
along. And that was the point I was getting to with the Joker and stuff, because I noticed that as we got closer and closer to the Joker, because I was kind of getting worried about getting seats because I heard a lot of people were going. And I checked, and my theater was showing it every 15 minutes. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to see this movie, no problem. When we got in the theater, there was people in there, but it was like, considering how many shows, that's when I knew, oh, there's something going on here.
So it was the same for me, but I couldn't get into the first night. In fact, I ended up waiting until the week after, and even then I couldn't go to the one I wanted because I didn't buy.
It might depend on your
Fast
area and stuff too. So that's the thing. It's like
It was
where
packed.
I live. Yeah. Where I live, I'm lucky to have a theater that's in a very touristy area. So in the later summer up through summertime again, it's one of those theaters where they should have a lot of showings and nobody shows up.
Mm-hmm.
So you're almost guaranteed to get in. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's get back on to Star Wars anyway. Was there anything else we needed to cover in the Star Wars universe, or did we want to talk about Joker?
Well, we can cover some of the super chats.
Yeah, there's some more super chats. There was.
Yeah. Austin Trench sent us a $1.99 super chat asking James Gunn or JJ who should make an Optimus film. So neither Star Wars nor Joker, but still, I'm going to say James Gunn all the way, not JJ for Optimus.
I like.
You got to
James
take
Gunn.
James Gunn
Yeah,
over
I like James
JJ
Gunn.
any day.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And Sister Harrow sent us a $5 Australian super chat. Why has no one tried Duck Tracy again? I guess you must mean Dick Tracy. The villains like Mumbles and Litchy Scream Joker style movie. Well, my guess is that how big is the fan base for Dick Tracy?
It has a little bit of a fan base, but I think that the I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, Rob. You were a little bit older at the time. I don't think the Dick Tracy movie did as well as Disney was hoping.
You mean the one with Madonna in it?
Yeah, the one
Yeah.
with Madonna and Warren Beatty and stuff. I mean, it did okay, but I don't think it did the type of. They were hoping for like Batman money, and I don't even think it did. It even break $100 million at the box office, and I know it cost a fortune to make.
Problem is, if you're gonna make a Dick Tracy movie, you might as well make a Batman.
Well, that's
movie.
a Midnight's Edge video in itself, guys, right there. I'll tell you that right now, because Dick Tracy, like, it got completely overhauled, like, I think twice within production, because they had all these famous people playing all these bad guys, and they ended up getting cut from the movie.
Ooh.
Oh, well, there you go. That's something to look forward to in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something I can dig up on that, and I have a feeling, it didn't. So, like, that's what Cisco says. I was gonna say I had a feeling it didn't do as well as they were hoping. So I think that anytime anybody brings up Dick Tracy, they're gonna go back to that and say, well, the last one didn't make money, so why would another one?
Hey, props to Dick Tracy though. One of the
It's a
very
great
few-
movie, and it's got a cult following since then, for sure.
One of the very few movies from the past that actually gave us tech we use today.
I love that movie. Don't
I
get
got
me
my
wrong,
video watch.
but
I got to see that movie.
You've never seen it?
No, never.
It's good. It's not
I know
like
of it,
great.
but I've never seen it.
It's
not
not
bad.
great, but it's for the production value alone and shit. It's amazing how they brought the comic to life. I don't know.
I'm
if
just
Rob
saying-
likes
I
it.
got
did.
Skype on my smartwatch, man. I can call.
What were
it
you
Dick
saying
Tracy.
there, Jay?
Awesome.
What were you saying?
But guys, at Drunk 3PO, I believe you may have to be leaving us fairly soon.
Okay.
So for that
That's
reason,
what
I
I was
just
getting
wanted to thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you as always.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I promised another stream I'd hop on at 8, but I got to go eat some dinner.
No
that's
problem,
all
sir.
understandable.
We've been going a little longer than we expected to, but I think
No,
we're getting-
anytime I can come on a Midnight's Edge live stream, I am very happy.
Well, we're glad to have you, sir.
So thank you guys so much for the invite. My thoughts on Dick Tracy was, if they do that, I would like to see like multiple films so you could explore the different villains instead of just one. So
It's
Yeah.
getting mostly
it's pretty
warm.
cool.
It's getting mostly warm feelings.
But
in
thank
the
you guys.
chat,
Have a
so-
great rest of the stream. Thank you, Andre, Tom,
Nice talking again, Drunk.
Anytime, man.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Always a pleasure. Always
buddy.
a pleasure. Till next time.
Yeah.
Later,
All
brother.
right. Take care. Bye.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't know if we really wanted to drag this on too much longer, but yeah. So, how many more super chats did we have, or is that it?
Let's see. I think maybe we may be up to speed again. We shall see in 1 second. No, we are not up to speed. Oh, nice one. Speaking of Transformers, referring to earlier question, the prodigious leader Megatron sent us a $2 super chat saying Transformers reboot using G1 with IDW storyline. Oh, hell yes. IDW comics. I just really struggle saying W. Sorry with that.
It's all right.
Those comics are awesome, especially how Megatron is handled in them. I'd be so happy if they used Bumblebee as a starting point and then spun that
I
into
agree.
the IDV storyline. My God, how
Megatron,
awesome.
where's Megatron?
Megatron was so good in that series. Like, he made that
I'll
series.
take
Like
him
everyone
out.
takes, but
I'll
especially
take him on. I love your
I'll
voice.
beat him.
No.
So yeah, and
You know, my favorite Transformers, this is a super guilty pleasure from the early 2000s, was Beast Wars, man. I couldn't get enough of Beast Wars when it first came out.
there is one episode of Transformers I couldn't get enough of, and I believe this is from, it's G1, but I think it's like season 3 probably, like after they gone into space and everything. I don't only remember it vaguely, but they basically go to Earth to like this Libya parody, which they called Carbumbia. Which is like this really super stereotypical parody of Arab oil nations. There you have megaplex, sucking up all their oil and everything. And I even believe that they had like the old version of Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe step in there in that episode and everything.
That's awesome.
Freaking awesome episode. Most of like those stuff you can't even watch today, but that episode holds up better today than when it was new. Fantastic.
The best cartoons were from the early 90s, man. They were able to do just insane, crazy stuff because they had a whole lot less people criticizing them. Nowadays, you can't do anything fun. Nothing's fun anymore. Everything's unfun.
I haven't watched too many modern cartoons, so it's difficult to say anything. But I will agree that like some of those 90s cartoons, especially some that I saw, I didn't register the name of who brought them up in the chat. Sorry about that, but I did see the comment, and I did see Earthworm Jim, which was fantastic, and Eek the Cat, which was also fantastic. Although personally, I prefer the side series, the Terrible Thunder Lizards. Why is that not out on DVD?
Right? I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. That was freaking awesome. And I did take myself a Blu-ray of the Earthworm Jim as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I miss all those old cartoons. I don't miss them. I miss them in theory, I think, though, because while I miss them, I can watch most of them, and I don't. So I think I miss the boldness that they told stories.
Oh, and Skeleton Warriors. Let's not forget Skeleton Warriors. Oh, that's a pretty awesome ones in Europe that you probably never heard about, so I'll keep those to myself.
Oh, well, no. Send me a link. I would like to check that out, especially if it's on Netflix or something.
Yeah, sure, certainly.
Oh, aren't they making a He-Man? They are, right?
Yeah, that is a Kevin Smith one. He's doing a He-Man revival thing, which is basically going to be a continuation of the original Filmation series. And we just got joined by a very special guest that is always a pleasure to have on the show. Welcome, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Hello, Andre. How are you?
Robert Meyer Burnett.
Hello, gentlemen.
What's up, Rob? How you doing, bro?
The Popcast. Man, I love that.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
What did I watched another one of your great videos.
Thanks. The Star Wars one?
Is that recent? I don't think
the most recent one was released this morning. It was Star Wars, and
I didn't watch. It was
3 weeks ago. We did the Picard one, which
that one. Yes, I watched that and liked it very much. I was talking about it actually.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. That's an honor, bro.
I always believe in promoting everyone else's good works.
No, I really appreciate that. Yeah. That video is doing great. It's at almost 400,000 views. So
I just got my 15,000th subscriber today. I felt like
congratulations!
I feel like I've only been doing this for this year, and I started from nothing. So it's been fun. My channel is small, but I enjoy it. I have a great community.
I know exactly how you're feeling. Literally last night at like 10:45 at night, I was editing the Star Wars video when our little channel finally ticked over to the 25K, and I got that alert from the app. I have this app. I got the alert that messaged me on every single one of my platforms, and I immediately took screenshots and just blasted that out to like 50 people I knew on my phone. I was so stoked.
Now let me ask you guys, do you feel like I feel this tremendous pressure and obligation to subscribers to provide something that's like, and it's just me, and I'm going to move over. I've been building a little studio in the garage, so I'm going to move over, and I've got my production value is going to go way up, so I can play videos and during the stream, and I can interview people, and then my background. I'm just building a citadel, my imaginarium, because I feel that I've literally, today was my 260th show, and I'm just talking to people. I'm like, I can't believe. I'm like, one day I'm going to have nothing more to say. I'm literally going to drop dead, just run out of breath.
I don't believe that at all.
And be gone.
That's not how Robert Meyer Burnett works. There'll always be something to talk about, man.
You'll have like 5 videos waiting to go live.
Yeah. You know, my
After
problem
the
is
fact.
it takes me so long to make a single video. I felt bad because I kept telling everybody that our Star Wars video was going to release last Friday,
Well,
and I couldn't get it done. It took me 6 extra days to get it done before I can finally finish it.
I have to say that I started watching Midnight's Edge. First of all, it was probably some Star Trek headline. Because I even though I've been involved, I've been on YouTube with, first of all, it was AMC Heroes and Collider Heroes, then John Campia, and now my own channel. I've been doing it for 4 years. I didn't watch a lot of YouTube. And when I started doing my own show, I started watching other people. And the Midnight's Edge videos, I always appreciated the how much effort was put into editing them.
Yeah,
I
was just telling him that.
Yeah, the actual production, and your videos are great too.
Thanks.
And it's and another person I like Critical Drinker as well, because
he's awesome.
First of all, his videos are great, and he's usually the first time I really started watching YouTube punditry was with Red Letter Media's their Generations review.
Yes,
this had to have been about 10 years ago.
Yep,
maybe
me too. That's when I
Plinkett's,
started watching YouTube.
You know, Plinkett's. There were 2 things I was talking about. One of them today. There was Plinkett's review of the 4 Next Generation films, even before they did the sequel, the prequel videos, which are master classes in storytelling.
Yeah, masterclass. Yep. When he goes down in the basement in one of those videos. Oh God.
Yeah, those videos are so.
I died laughing.
And now, of course, Red Letter Media frequently takes shots like the Nerd Crew. You know, they look like things I've been participating in, which I think are very funny.
Right.
But then the Midnight's Edge
I'm
videos,
sure they're making directly fun of people you've worked with. That's guaranteed.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
For a fact.
100%.
But
I see myself in some of those guys.
Oh, totally. But I love those guys so much. And then watching people over the last couple of years, there's been so many great videos. And the Midnight's Edge videos, I was like, oh, you know, there was an air of respectability. And whether I agreed with you guys or not, I still watched all the videos because they were interesting. And I thought that was really great. And you know, the Popcast stuff and everybody's sort of like, I, as a filmmaker and video editor myself, I'm like, I would be too, if I do video editing, it just takes me too long because I get too wrapped up in making it more like, I like the idea I can just turn on my computer and talk.
Yeah, I was telling him the same thing. And when we first started our channel, it was just us talking. And I almost wish I would have stuck to that, because the editing and the research is just intense, man. It just takes hours. In fact, I was telling him too that I started watching Colliders and then stopped watching Colliders when John Schnepp passed away.
Yeah.
And Campia left. But you know what, bro? I actually started watching Collider when it was Collider Heroes with you and John Schnepp and Campia. That's when I started watching Collider Heroes.
Yeah, I mean, that was the beginning. What's so funny about that is, like, I get, in the last year, obviously I've been more aware of YouTube, but I was a year and a half ago, I got stopped. I was like at a cheesecake factory or something, and somebody stopped me and said, dude, I watch you on YouTube all the time. And I was like, you must be talking about somebody else. He goes, no, I watch you with Schnepp. And it made me, I had to stop and think, even though I'd been on YouTube for 3.5 years, I never think of myself as doing that. Like, I was just think of it as the show. And it was interesting. And now, like, I even watch channels like Jeffree Star and Shane, you know, which are people I didn't even know who they were, but I fell into that whole realm. And once you go down these rabbit holes and you find out who's on what, it's amazing. I mean,
that's the billion view club right there, Rob.
I know. And then you look, there's other people like, you know, Gad Sad, who I count, Joe Rogan, and the Jordan Peterson, the intellectual dark web people, the Dave Rubins. And I mean, I there's all of these people. I watch all of these people. I kind of skip across the internet and watch everybody.
Yeah, me too. One of the best videos on YouTube is when Jordan Peterson talked to Joe Rogan. That video was an hour and a half of pure perfectness. I couldn't.
Well, what's interesting is I don't understand why, like, you know, we have these conversations here with you guys. You can't do that on broadcast TV. You know, you can't have these long form discussions with people. And when I first started, I remember back when I first was on YouTube in 2015, people were like, you know, what people want is short form entertainment. And I'm like, I don't think that's necessarily true. And watching what Joe Rogan has done and watch what Dave Rubin has done. I know Rubin used to be part of the Young Turks and like defected. But watching these deep dive discussions, I mean, I'll watch Joe Rogan just to see who he's got on, and he's got his regulars that he brings back, but they're amazing. There's amazing conversations he has with people from all different walks of life. You know, his Edward Snowden interview this week is incredible. I'm like, how did he organize that? And I'm sure a lot of people weren't happy that he gave Edward Snowden such a big platform with which to speak for 2.5 hours or whatever. But still, like, I was riveted by that.
Yeah, I was riveted for like 20 minutes, and then I realized that Snowden didn't really have much to say. That's
you know, it's funny you say that, because I watched it all and I was like, you could have said this in a third of the time.
Right, absolutely. You know, I wanted to bring this up. I forgot to tell you last time. I actually met you and Rob Schnepp in person.
You mean John Schnepp?
I'm sorry, John Schnepp. You and John Schnepp in person, and I got this DVD. Yeah, man. I forgot to mention it last time we were on stream. But yeah, you guys were fantastic. Rest in peace.
Well, yeah, he was. You know, I'd known him for years and years, and I would never have been on YouTube. He wanted me to start my own channel. It was him that said, "Please go do this," and I'm like, "Well, what would I do?" And he goes, "Here, just bring your level of enthusiasm about everything."
Just talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I busted in here. You guys asked me to come in, and
No,
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, we're talking about Star Wars as the main topic, but we've gone through most of our main topics. But I'm sure we're curious to hear your thoughts on the Rise of Skywalker trailer.
Dude, all I want to do, I mean, I just want to say that I grew up when I went in the summer. I used to go to a horse camp, the Flying Horseshoe Ranch in Cle Elum, Washington, and I rode horses. And then I taught kids how to ride horses. And ever since that trailer dropped, all I've dreamt about is riding a horse just full gallop across the top of an Imperial Star Destroyer. I don't know why anybody would possibly do that in the Star Wars universe, but by God, I want to do it. Damn it!
I want to do that too.
Do you think? Do you think JJ Abrams is taking the phrase calling in the cavalry a little too literally?
You know what's really interesting is, like, I've collected. I have most Star Wars reference books. I mean, when I was a kid, I bought The Art of Star Wars from the Science Fiction Book Club because it was the only way I could get a hardcover version of it. And it wasn't for their art books. They're not book club editions. They were real editions. And I have loved the art of Star Wars books since then. They did them for the prequel trilogy. They've been doing them now for a lot of other movies in addition to the Marvel movies. And when I read The Force Awakens, Art of Force Awakens, there's all of this great artwork that wasn't a part of the movie. It was all production design work. And it was like, I feel when I was watching this trailer, I feel like there was a bunch of artwork that people did, and J.J. Abrams kind of walks in and goes, "Oh yeah, let's do that, and let's do that, and let's do that."
Right.
Yeah, and he just picks up this stuff, and I'm like, what is his fetish of not having spaceships in, space?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Listen,
Like, I don't get
I just did 3 weeks of I bought this book in order to do my last Star Wars video. There are actual promotional images from this book that you can actually find in the newest trailer. Not identical, but damn near close.
Now, which book is that? Which one
this
is that?
This is The Force Awakens.
It is? Okay, yeah.
And there are shots from this where they're so close to shots that are in the newest trailer. It's almost like they went through the book and they're like, let's create this in real life for the trailer because it looks pretty.
Yeah, well, it's such a weird, like, look, it's already, Star Wars was already space fantasy, but there was an air of authenticity to it. Like the Star Wars universe, you watch Star Wars, not the special editions, but Star Wars Empire and Jedi, there's an authenticity within, there's a universe that they were building that had, it was all of a piece. Like, you believed it. And in the original trilogy, capital ships do not work in the atmosphere or gravity well of planets. That's why they're capital ships. Like, you're never going to see a Star Destroyer land, or hover over a city. the way you
You
did
will
in
now.
Rogue One. And I went off on my show a couple weeks ago about this. I hate this idea that the idea for me growing up was that capital ships were manufactured in space, even like the Starship Enterprise. Its component parts were built on the Earth, but they're shipped into orbit and assembled, or Utopia Planitia over Mars or whatever, because they're so big that a Constitution class cruiser could not land. I mean, that's why it's built the way it's built. Warp nacelles would never survive the gravity well of a planet. And I feel that and having those differences, like the reason there's a shuttle Tidarium is because it goes down to a planet. It goes and lands at the shield generating base. It goes back up to the that's cool. I mean, those limitations on ships like that were interesting and made it cool. Like,
made it realistic.
You felt like you were seeing it added to the universe.
It made sense. It made sense in your mind. Like, this, like you said, the Enterprise would never be able to function in atmosphere and gravity because it would just collapse under its own weight.
Right.
The same thing with the Star Destroyer. It would be too heavy to move, and it's aerodynamically, it's not aerodynamically, feasible for it to navigate in an atmosphere.
How could they power, even if there's some kind of weird anti-gravity device, how could they generate enough power to lift something of that size?
Yeah, Rob, I've had this conversation with people, and what they always tell me is, well, Star Wars, there's no sound in space. It's not science fiction, it's science fantasy. And what I always tell everybody is, it doesn't have to follow the rules of physics. It has to follow its own rules.
Yes,
and they've already established these rules in previous movies. They need to follow their own rules. It doesn't need to follow perfect laws of physics. I get it. It's Star Wars, but it's got to follow its own rules. And that's my problem with the latest movies.
There's nothing that irritates me more is that when you point something out like that to somebody, I'm like, well, how could this be possible? Not how this would be possible. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you take a Star Destroyer into the atmosphere? Why would you put the Enterprise under the ocean? And they say, well, this is a fictional universe. You can do whatever you want. I'm like, that drives me up a freaking wall.
Yeah, it's so lazy, man. Like the
it
bombs
is
falling in
intellectually
space.
It is an intellectually lazy counter argument.
I had that conversation with episode 8. I was like, why did the bombers come out of hyperspace so far away, then slowly make their way to the ship and slowly release the bombs? And the guy's like, well, because they was trying to do like a World War II thing, and they want to be realistic, and they can do whatever they want because it's fantasy. I'm like, well, here's the problem. It doesn't make any sense, like common sense wise. Why not just get closer, come out of hyperspace closer to the stupid ship? I don't understand that. I mean, it's all for the sake of writing. You're trying to build suspense without common sense. That's the problem.
Well, what's interesting is what makes a great fictional universe is the limitations of that universe, because it gives it more authenticity. We want to believe in fictional universes, and the fact that you have capital ships, it's cooler that capital ships have rules.
Yes.
And it defines, it makes you believe that universe more. Like you go back to the Empire Strikes Back. Why is there an ion cannon on Hoth if you could land a Star Destroyer a mile away from the Rebel base and land how you could possibly defend against that? A Star Destroyer could just open fire with its turbo lasers and lay waste. The whole point of having a planetary base is to at least protect you from capital ships. And of course, they have a screen that will deflect, as we heard in the movie, any orbital bombardment, which means they have to send in surface forces to get underneath that shield, and that's the only way to attack.
Rob, dude, I had this exact conversation because people go, well, why did they walk in the walkers? To avoid being shot when they were landing the walkers.
Right.
It's common sense.
I mean, and that's what made it cool. I mean, we know from real military history how armor works and how a ground assault works. And what's interesting about Star Wars is there is always a semblance of, we saw in Star Wars, you can't just you don't the attack on the shield on the proton where the proton torpedo goes, in the the exhaust port. The exhaust port in the Death Star is a place, so you've set up a limitation. The only way the only vulnerability of the Death Star is this 2-meter wide exhaust port that you have to get to. You have to get through the turbo laser defense, then you have to get through the TIE fighters, then you have to fly down into the trench, and then you have to get a proton torpedo through the shielding and down inside the Death Star, which is basically impossible, but it's the only way to do it. And setting up those limitations make you believe. And that's part of the whole thing with Star Wars, and they've undermined. As soon as I saw capital ships take off at the end of Attack of the Clones and begun the Clone Wars I'm like, oh, man. No. I mean, these are what are these, dirigibles? What are these supposed to be? I mean, if they're capital ships, they shouldn't be able to function in atmospheres like that, and it sort of undermined what was cool about Star Wars. They even land, even in Phantom Menace, the droid control ships, not the entire droid control ship lands, but the center sphere lands.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's cool. That's not a capital ship. That's a section. That's part of the control ship that lands. I mean, I liked all of that. And then in Rogue One, when I saw a Star Destroyer over Jeddah, I'm like, I get it. It's a cool image. Somebody painted that image, or if you can look, I loved it when I played Force Unleashed. I could pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky.
Awesome.
Force Unleashed, cool.
One of the greatest Star Wars games ever. Yeah.
I love that game. I mean, and
come on.
Yeah, and you had to do that for a long time.
A long time.
and
you felt the exertion. You felt like you were putting the same amount of effort out that this character was putting effort.
Totally. But that's what was cool about Star Wars. And when you're a kid, I remember when I first got the MPC model of a Star Destroyer, I could finally play Star Wars correctly, because they didn't make a Star Destroyer you could hold in your hands and you have to get up to the Star Destroyer, and I've got an X-Wing fighter, and will it be able to get past the Imperial blockade? I mean, it was so lame that they once a Star Destroyer can land or fly right over a city. Why didn't there's a reason why it didn't land in Empire, because they couldn't.
Right.
Because they couldn't do it then.
Right. Follow your own rules, please. Every time you have this conversation, they go, well, why didn't they just cover up the exhaust port? I'm like, no one was supposed to know about the exhaust port on the Death Star. That was the one weakness it had, and no one had the information. That was yeah.
It was an afterthought. That's why it wasn't. Who would attack the exhaust port? Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah,
I mean, they had to have an exhaust port somewhere.
Right.
Nobody even thought. I'm sure no one ever even, because nobody was looking. There's hubris in the Imperial thinking. We're going to build this Death Star. Who's gonna possibly challenge us? Much less find a weakness.
Well, that was one thing I did kind of like about Rogue One, was kind of they did give it a reason. The guy who designed it that way on purpose.
Yeah,
I didn't like that.
Plans.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I would rather it be, look, these plans, the detailed plans of our giant superstructure are not supposed to leak out to the rebels.
Well, but remember, in Star Wars, they have the plans. They don't even know if there's a weakness. They say in Star Wars, I only hope a weakness can be found.
Right.
They don't even know.
That's a good point. I never even thought of
a detailed analysis of the plans provided by Princess Leia
reveals
a weakness in the battle station.
Yeah, I just ruined Rogue One.
But they didn't, and that was another thing. I mean, as much as I can enjoy Rogue One, it's still boneheaded. I don't feel that the end of Rogue One is right where Star Wars begins. Why are they flying to Tatooine? Well, I mean, it's what you've stolen the plans, you've escaped, and okay, you're not going to lead the Imperial forces back to Yavin, so you're going to take them to where the last Jedi is instead, Ben Kenobi. It doesn't work, and I don't think that people today. The thing that bothers me the most about science fiction fantasy storytelling is it's not that people aren't smart, but they're not thinking through these things because they think, just like you had said, well, why does it matter? It's a fictional universe. And they don't understand that the best fictional universes are the ones that we can believe in because they're so detailed and thought through.
Yeah, because there's rules.
There
we
are
follow the
rules.
rules, and so we know what the characters are capable of, and what the villains are capable of, and what can happen and what can't happen, and it makes it easy for a human being to follow. If everything is just possible, if it's the Q universe, then we got a problem. Even Q in Star Trek, there were limitations. There was even limitations with the Q by his own people, limited him and his abilities and what he can do, and that limitation is what made that godlike figure semi-realistic.
Well,
Exactly.
and I feel that that's what's missing in that. I think that's really look the problem that I had with Force Awakens when I first saw it is there's so much in it that's monumentally dumb. Like the whole idea of Star Killer Base. They don't even define. They're like, okay, it uses the energy of a star once. Like you don't even know. And if
Where's
the
what star and what? Yeah, give us more parameters
And if
how
the
close
weapon-
does it have to be and
no, and the weapon can only fire in one plane. I mean,
Yeah.
it's built to the
Right.
center of a planet. Can it move? Does this
Why?
planetary body move? Or and then you talk about it's a hyperspace beam weapon. Well, okay, wait a minute. How does that work? You can't go into. You have to plot coordinates, which we learned going through hyperspace isn't like dusting crops, boy. Bounce too close to a supernova and that'll end your trip real quick, wouldn't it? You need mechanical devices to plot your course for hyperspace. You can't just fire a beam weapon and then the beam weapon, when it gets where it's going, breaks into 5 different beams
and it moves. Yeah, how's that working?
and I looked at this and I'm like, this is I can't watch stuff like this because nobody has thought about it. They just are literally, and people are like, well, what does it matter? Well, it matters because if you're asking yourself that there's a weapon, whether you have a doomsday machine from the Doomsday Machine in the original series, it can have a hull you can't get into. You've got to have parameters of how these things work. Otherwise, they become boring. It's like, okay, well, then it can do anything. If you don't know what it can do, you as an audience cannot anticipate the story points. So you then detach from what's going on. And
the Death Star moving in Return of the Jedi,
it has to move into position to fire at Yavin 4
it was
or whatever.
there was a time how much time it took for that thing to move across the moon to get to where it can attack and get in position, and it made sense. It gave you like restrictions.
And it's dramatic tension. You've got like 15 minutes and you're constantly watching the shifting tactical display of how close, when you hear those chilling words, the Death Star is clear to fire. And you realize, and you look at this stuff and I'm like, how do these filmmakers, especially to me, J.J. Abrams he's never learned these lessons. His 2 Star Trek movies, Super 8 and Force Awakens, are some of the sloppiest storytelling in any science fiction movie ever because he has no understanding. It's like when Kylo Ren stops that bolt at the beginning of Force Awakens. When they're going to you look at that and you're like, okay, wait a second. Okay, now when was this possible? We've seen Vader deflect blasts in Empire with his bare hands. But stopping a bolt weapon, you've now suddenly created a force power that has 20 different questions that go along with it. That if you can do that, how big does a bolt have to be before you can't do that anymore?
Well, he's controlling literal light. He's stopping light like in its. That's a powerful fucking Jedi there.
Like I always say, it makes for a cool visual, but it breaks down what I call buy-in. How do I buy in to that in this universe?
Verisimilitude,
exactly. And you know what I said to myself when I was in the theater when watching The Force Awakens, when the Star Killer absorbed the energy from the star, I said, wait a minute. If they absorb the energy from the star, that means there's no gravity. It would go flying off into space, and the planet would instantly freeze.
Yeah, and you destroy an entire galaxy in the process, and then some.
I'm like, but it's those. But people they're not concerned. And again, they're just appealing to. I don't want to call it the lowest common denominator because it's kind of a mean thing. But the appeal of that is to people who just want to text on their phones, and like what Mecha Random says, they text on phones, and then when something happens, it's time for me to look up and pay attention.
Well, the other
and so they're
problem is-
only getting the small bits of information. They're only
Right.
getting the cool parts. They don't see everything.
Well,
That's
the
what
other problem is JJ is that guy.
Yeah.
JJ, he
Right.
doesn't care. When he's told by somebody who probably said, well, that doesn't how, or why, maybe somebody come up to him and said, well, if this thing sucks all the life out of a star, why doesn't it suck the life out of the star of all the planets that you're going to explode and kill 2 birds in one stone and save the power for another shot? JJ's like, well, that's just stupid. I don't want to do that. It doesn't make sense. Who cares? Nobody's going to think about that. We're just going to do it the way I want to do it.
Well, how long exactly did it take to construct Star Killer Base? That had to have been one of the most giant construction projects ever. And why did the Republic allow such a construction project to be built in the first place? I mean,
Now we're getting Kevin Smith, but it's true. You're
but you
right.
know, but I look
It's
but I
true.
look at something like that, and I'm like, okay, you know, they talk about in Star Wars, don't be too proud of this technological terror you constructed. You know it's
Right.
new. The Death Star is new, and like even in books, Star Wars books like Catalyst, you know, or Tarkin, you go back and you realize, oh, what I loved is you find out that the Geonosians from Attack of the Clones were the people that started. They were the contractors that were building the Death Star, and there's a whole backstory about that. And what I've found that's really frustrating about franchise properties, specifically Star Trek and Star Wars, is when I was a kid, I was reading Star Trek novels because there was no new Star Trek. You know, there was only the 79 episodes.
Same.
And the people
Garfield.
oh yeah, the people that were writing the books were real. First of all, a lot of them were really great authors, the best ones. And they really thought about the universe. So if you read like Judith and Garfield, Reeve Stevens, like you read Prime Directive, or you read their book Federation, or even their Shatner books, they're so well thought out. And the best Star Wars novels do these deep dives into the universe because most of the writers that started on those books go on to write real science fiction.
Yeah,
And
Zahn.
they're fleshing out the Star Wars universe, and they're filling in all of these details. But what's interesting is if you go back and if you really watch Star Wars, there are all of these limitations. You never stop yourself and go, wait a minute, that can't be true. Like it's never really defined that the Death Star travels through hyperspace.
Right.
But we know that it does. And you do see in the schematics that there's a giant engine. You just never see it in the actual movie.
Right.
But you know that the Death Star shows up in the Yavin system because they figured out where to go. And there are these things where like it doesn't just show up the way J.J. Abrams has it. You can come out of hyperspace in and out of a planetary. Jumping into hyperspace while you're still in the gravity well of a planet wouldn't work either. You tear your ship apart.
Yeah.
And now it's become this thing that's infecting movies where hyperspace no longer has to have rules.
Yeah, but Robert, it looks cool.
The worst part of episode 8, in my opinion,
That's what you get told. Sorry, Robert. That's what you get told. I'm sorry. I'm just
No, but
the universe breaking of the ship being used as a weapon to launch into hyperspace. That was the absolute worst thing they could have done to the Star Wars franchise, because that changes everything immediately.
What's sad is it looks like, Robert, you've been told that a few times.
Well,
the look on your face.
No, I will only say this. I mean, I liked that, but I'll tell you why. Because that was the first time, but they didn't tell you this. They should have set it up that no one has ever done this before. Like, because there's never been a situation where, why would you possibly do that? You know, nobody's ever thought about taking your own ship, sacrificing yourself, and flying into another. They should have made it out like this has never been done before. You know,
we don't know if this will work.
We don't know if it'll work, and that you can't, like, you couldn't even do that. Like, you're not capable. Only capital ships of a certain kind could possibly have done this. But I agree with you. Once you've done that, why don't they just build large hyperspace missiles?
Yeah.
And
Attach a droid to it and have it fly into the middle of the Death Star.
You build a torpedo with a hyperdrive on it that's made of a dense material. And just send it flying through whatever target you
Problem solved.
Now, JJ just wanted to say I got bigger balls than George Lucas. That's all it really was.
Hey guys, I have to go soon. But
All right.
can I
take
go with
care,
this?
Brian.
Can I go with this real quick? My brother always says this. J.J. Abrams is basically a trailer director
Yeah.
that makes hour-and-a-half long movies. And so that's what you're saying is you see these movies that have all these great shots, but they don't actually have to have much explainer.
Yeah, I can think, but Rob, I can think of like one instance where actually they did perform a hyperspace jump in the atmosphere. Was I think episode 4 of Robotech.
Right.
But yeah, but the thing is, they were dealing with a new technology. They had never used it before.
Right.
And the great thing was they actually showed the aftermath. It almost destroyed the ship, and they transported part of Macross Island with it. But that actually shows some thought being put into it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting to me is that these quote unquote rules, it's not like they're almost cross franchise rules. And J.J. Abrams in his movies over the last 10 years with Star Trek and Star Wars has broken all of them.
It's true.
The idea that he ruined the transporters in Star Trek. You know, Khan Nooney and Singh can transport from a little one-man fighter in Into Darkness to the Klingon homeworld from Earth.
I know.
Why do you need starships? I mean,
remind me of that.
But it's like why I don't understand how someone who's sitting in an edit bay or reading scripts or something would think that's something good to do.
Right.
Like I mean, none of Into Darkness makes a lick of sense. I mean, here's my super secret dreadnought spaceship, but let me have a model of it on my desk in Starfleet Command.
You're totally right, but it definitely
what's that black ship, the big saucer section? What is that? That dreadnought? What is that? Oh, I don't know. It's my super secret ship I'm building out by Jupiter. Maybe I should have not had that model on my desk.
Right. I shouldn't advertise it. Okay, guys, I gotta go. Hey, Rob, always
Take
fun.
care, Brian.
Yeah,
Tom, Rob, Andre.
I'm gonna watch a Star Wars video now.
Yeah, check it out, guys. My
Yeah.
wife's coming here like 5 times, so I better go, or that's you know.
Yeah, yeah, family comes first. So
All right, love you guys.
Thanks for
See you later.
joining us.
take care.
Bye.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, we all know that JJ directed Star. Was that Tallulah or is that Gilbert?
Both
That
of
was
them.
Tallulah.
Both
That
of
was-
them.
they're right here. Tallulah.
We're
and
getting a
Gilbert are
double
right-
cameo.
Yeah, the come here, guys. Here, I'll make Gilbert come up here. Come on, buddy.
Did
Wanna
they
come
get
up
their
here?
cookies already?
Man, they've got they Gilbert was a terror today.
Oh,
He was a holy terror. I don't know why. I guess he's not going to come up. Yeah, they're Tallulah. They're a little wacky. Tallulah's, I'm convinced, she's brain damaged. Tallulah, come here. No, she's clearly from another planet.
Jeez.
She actually grew up on it. This is the craziest story. So Elizabeth, she wanted a second dog, and she specifically wanted another doodle that was red-haired. So she starts this search, and you'd think we live in California.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she finds a red-haired doodle puppy in Pennsylvania, as one does. And then she calls her brother. He calls her brother in Vermont, her brother Vlad, and says, "Could you drive 900 miles and go pick up this dog?" So it turns out Tallulah was living in an Amish barn.
Oh,
Oh wow!
So
Wow.
she's a witness dog. She's like in Peter Weir's movie Witness.
yeah.
Like,
So
Well,
Tallulah
yeah.
came from Pennsylvania, Amish country, to Vermont, and then she was flown out here because that's the way you do things.
Well,
Yeah,
like,
she went to her permanent rumspringa.
So does that make you Harrison Ford saving her from?
Gilbert just took a bagel off my desk. Just so you know.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Well,
they get
I
the
know,
cookies yet?
well, I know a couple actually walks their border collie. They adopted her from Washington State, and they had her flown to Connecticut, where I am. So just sight unseen, they said, "Do you have another border collie?" Oh yeah. We can't. They're breeders out. There are breeders out there. The breeder used to live here, but she had moved to Washington State. So without even seeing the dog, they just send her. They put her on a plane, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's how
she's-
Tallulah got here, and we heard she
Yeah.
had separation anxiety and all, but she's been great. She's just a little insane.
Yeah,
But-
but I was saying about how we all kind of figured that J.J. Abrams was making Star Trek as a test reel for Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
we all had the warning signs, but it's
I was suckered in. I was one of
Yeah.
those few people who said, "Oh, this guy should make Star Wars, not Star Trek." Yeah, I was one of the few people who
said that though, because
Yeah.
he basically made a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
with the 09 movie.
But again, you saw that in Star Wars or in Star Trek, there's so much nonsensical ridiculousness. One of my favorite things that J.J. Abrams did before Star Trek 09 came out, a lot of the LA Star Trek fans community I was invited to a screening where they showed 20 minutes of the movie. And I want to say this was 3 or 4 months before it came out. And one of the scenes they showed was Anton Yelchin. So in Star Trek, pardon me, in the Star Trek universe, Chekhov is Russian. The character of Chekhov is Russian. Now, that Walter Koenig has a funny accent is not part of the universe. In the Star Trek universe, he's just a Russian dude. And the joke is that he says that everything good comes from Russia. The Garden of Eden was outside of Leningrad and all that. So what do? They hire Anton Yelchin, who's actually Russian. He's a real Russian actor who speaks fluent Russian. And in the movie, they saddle him with a funny Russian accent so they can make a joke in Star Trek 09 that the computer can't understand him because he has a thick Russian accent. And you're breaking the fourth wall. You're saddling that every Chekhov has a bad Russian accent because of Walter Koenig. No, Chekhov is still a badass, and yet they have a joke at his expense because his accent is apparently too thick. And so the computer couldn't understand. I'm like, you have a ship with all of these aliens, and your ship computer doesn't understand a real Russian who would speak with a real Russian accent. I mean, it was fourth wall breaking. It was a dumb sophomoric joke, and you're undercutting your own character.
Can I add one thing to that? As someone with an accent, what I thought was the most stupid thing is exactly where that accent came into play, where he would say the letter W instead of V, which is what was required. And as a non-native English speaker, it's the opposite. That's a problem. It's the opposite. Is that so few that are not native English speakers even have the letter W, and Russians certainly don't have it. What we have is V. I always have to focus on not using the word V, which is what I naturally am inclined to do whenever I see W. I hate the letter W personally. It's my second least favorite letter in the English language.
What's the first?
C. I mean, is it S or is it K? Make up your mind.
Oh God, I know. I always have to. I hate having to tell Andre those kind of things.
But there was stuff like that was just throughout Star Trek 09. There's just really dumb things that happen, this, and he carried that over to Super 8, and he carried it over into Star Wars. When it's like all of the connective tissue or all of these things that help build the universe, he got rid of all of that. And it doesn't make sense because of it. It's like, well, I don't have to explain that. Well, yeah, you kind of do. Just by having the Death Star taking time to fire on the Yavin base proves that somebody was thinking about things in terms of the reality. If there really was a Death Star and if there really were planets that were being attacked, what would that look like? In JJ's world, the Death Star would just appear.
Yeah, and it reminds me. I mean, I've kind of told a different version of the story, but it's still relevant. And when I got drugged to Star Trek 09, my girlfriend at the time, I said, for every reason you want to go see this movie, I don't. Because it's everything I don't like.
Neither did Tallulah, apparently.
Yeah, evidently. And I'm like, there's no way you're going to make me see anybody other than Shatner as Kirk and Leonard Nimoy as Spock and so on down the road. Well, after the movie, I admitted, it was fun. Great casting. I can't believe that I fell for, most of the cast of characters as fill-ins. But I said right flat out, but it was a big 2-hour Saturday Night Live skit that cost $200 billion. I said, that's really what it was. And when you said that, that's what reminded me of saying that, because I forgot I had said that at the time. I'm like, it's one big, long SNL skit.
Remember what Red Letter Media said about the last movie, Star Trek Beyond? What was Idris Elba's plan?
I don't remember. I've only seen the movie once. I just remember that was the better of the few of the three. But no, it's right. Like Robert Meyer Burnett's right. Like the first thing, everything's a bit. Everything's like a setup for a scene.
Right.
Like everything's up through even the scene where Kirk's got blown up hands. That's the scene that really made me feel like I'm watching a Saturday Night Live skit, aren't I?
Well, and also the character of Kirk is basically Maverick from Top Gun. He was a cliche portrayal.
It's the Eddie Murphy version of Kirk.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it, and of course, Starfleet cadets are bullies. you know, you're in a bar and you start talking to Uhura and other Starfleet cadets are going to come pummel you. I mean, what it was it was all shortcut storytelling. It was all like, we're from a small town, we're here in Iowa or whatever, and we're just going to beat you up because you're talking to our girl. What's that?
Well, there was Finnegan.
Right. But the thing about Finnegan is that Finnegan, the character of Finnegan's smart. And I would love to have seen how Finnegan would torment Kirk, because he would probably torment Kirk in very interesting and intelligent ways. But, you know, you look at the Kobayashi Maru scene in Star Trek 09 is just, it's an affront. You know, you don't believe it at all. I mean, I always thought that the way it's portrayed in Star Trek 2 is that Kirk actually reprograms the simulator, makes it possible to rescue the ship. And when he actually does it, he would do it using, say, even Garth of Izar, some tactic that was forgotten in the past. And so even the instructor's like, wait a minute, no one's done that before, and they're not supposed to be able to do that. How is he able to do this? So it would have seemed credible for at least a minute.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he say I cheated?
No,
Well, yeah,
he says I reprogrammed the simulator, so making it possible to rescue the survivors. His son said you cheated. I got a commendation.
She says it. Yeah.
I got a commendation for original thinking.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That was so stupid in 09.
He was just an
But it
asshole.
was so obvious that he was cheating about it. Like, it should be obvious to everyone that
Yeah.
this guy cheated. Something was up here.
And he's gloating the whole time. He's like, man, fire photon torpedoes as he bites an apple. The whole point, which it should have seemed credible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and Kirk should have gotten away with it, and it would have seemed like he would have shown his command prowess by doing something interesting that was unexpected, where the professors at first are like, wow, no one's ever done that before, which is why it happened. And then it could have been Spock going, I don't buy this. And then he would have gone and looked, and we would have wondered, and then he would have been discovered. But you don't believe for a minute that, and of course you find out in the deleted scenes, he had seduced his Uhura's roommate to do it for him. So he didn't even reprogram
in the 09 version, yeah.
In the 09 version.
And that's where I say that this version that we got in the 09 version is the Eddie Murphy version, to clarify. I trace back, because I remember we've had this conversation about a million times. It's like, yeah, Kirk's always kind of been suave to a point, but he's been cool, but he's been cool under pressure, not like, you know, swaggering cool. That came from Eddie Murphy, I swear. I traced it back to the whole Eddie Murphy, because he's like, you know, Kirk is cool as hell. He fuck anything that moves, you know, blah, blah. All that whole bit, I think, kind of
was that in Delirious?
I think so. It's in Delirious. And I think that permeated into the culture. So then by the time we got to 09, that's what JJ knew of Kirk, is that he's this swaggering, cool ladies man. Because then I think that's the version we get with Pike.
When I saw that in the theater, I'm like, hey, he really is, you know, having sex with a green girl. So, but you know, that's
Well, you know, and what's really interesting too is, I don't know why the cage has become such a touchstone for Discovery, but green Orion slave women are slaves.
Because
you know,
that's the only episode they watched, Robert.
Right. And it's not like it's a good thing, you know, and to have Orions come into it's like JJ's understanding of Star Trek was about as understanding as my mother. You know, my mother understands Star Trek in a very cursory manner because I've been a fanatic since I was a little kid. But that's how JJ seemed to understand it all. And it's maddening to watch those shots of the turbo shafts, the roller coaster turbo shafts in a spaceship, because you just think to yourself, where do you think all of this space actually exists within a ship? Space is always at a premium, even in starships. If you're going to make me believe that a starship's that you do you have any understanding how turbo lifts work at all? Have you ever, did you watch the TNG episode Disaster? Mm-hmm. We've seen turbo shafts depicted for 50 years, and you've decided to make it an amusement park ride?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how does a showrunner who's making Star Trek look at that and go, I'm sorry, that's not how it exactly works?
Oh, I felt the same way in 09 movie when we get to see the beer factory as the... It's like, what are all those tanks for? What are they holding? I don't get this. This whole thing was like,
they're for beer. They like to party on a starship. Don't you know that?
Yes,
John?
but they got simulators. They don't need it.
They also have replicator technology.
Or that's what I meant. Replicators.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
you
didn't mean
wouldn't
simulators.
You wouldn't have to have giant stores of water somewhere because you just replicate it as needed. So if you had something, let's say you had an antimatter reaction that needed to be water cooled, what you'd be doing is constantly transporting in water that was very cold and keep it, the transporter just keep, or whatever, you'd replicator technology would keep water recycling. You'd beam it in, beam it out instantaneously to keep, you wouldn't need anything water cooled, but if you did, that's what you would use. And to see these giant pipes on the Enterprise, it's like, I'm like, that's you, what? It drove me bonkers to see that because it shows a fundamental lack of understanding of the actual fictional universe that had been created over the 40 years before Star Trek 09 was made. And there's how many blueprints and how many technical manuals. And if I was J.J. Abrams, where was the joy? He could have had such joy if he looked into all this reference material and familiarized himself with it and just at least made the effort to try and make it believable in some way, shape, or form. But no, everything from the size and the configuration of everything, how the Enterprise worked, it's just like they threw that all away and started from scratch. And what they made wasn't good. And that's what drove me bonkers. And the same is true of Discovery.
Right.
All the world building, the heavy lifting of the world building is already done for you, which is great. So why go back? Why ruin that? Why not build off of that? And you don't have to go back and do these things. It's already been done for you. Just follow the template and concentrate on your characters and your story because the universe is already taken care of. But oh no. Mm-hmm. Let's go back and start and make up the universe as we go along. And for me, it's hard to watch the show because it seems like idiots have made it.
Yeah. Well, I don't forget who said it. When J.J. Abrams said, "Oh yeah, it was too cerebral. It's too thinky for people." Yeah, Star Trek is too thinky. Yeah, it's too cerebral. And like I said, I love the fact that it was cerebral. You kidding me? And hey, it shows. It's not. I hate saying this. It's not a show for dumb people. It really isn't.
No, and it goes back to the heart of what we always say. Fundamentally, is that the people that are recharging or rebooting or reboot cooling these things every time, they don't fundamentally understand what made these things popular to begin with, and that goes to show with Terminator and everything else that's coming up down the line here. It seems like everything just they don't seem to understand fundamentally what made these things popular to begin with. They want to change them for a new audience that doesn't exist and is not going to show up or care. And the only people who are going to speak out about it are not the ones who are going to show up to buy tickets. They're just going to say it because it looks good on their Twitter.
Well, another thing that drove me nuts. I don't know if you've seen this. I'm not getting into the politics of it, but Batwoman. Have you seen any of that or not?
Yeah, I've seen 2 episodes of it.
Well, again, I had one of those moments. So Batman has been missing for 3 years. Like, wait a minute. Where did Batman go? And we're celebrating tonight, turning off the bat signal. If Batman is the only thing keeping Gotham safe, why are you celebrating? This doesn't make any from in the first 10 minutes you got me saying this doesn't make sense. That's the level of storytelling that they expect. And it's bleeding into everything now. It's driving me up a wall.
Well, I call it cutscene storytelling.
Yeah.
Because when you're playing a video game, you need the barest of stories to get you to the next level of gameplay. So you're not thinking about they have shortcuts that you buy into. You're like, okay. And I feel that that's what's happened to all of genre storytelling. And when you watch something like The Expanse, it's based on a series of novels. And so you've already got your universe and your backstory, that a lot of the heavy lifting, and they're not following the books exactly, but they've got the books and there's enough fealty by the showrunners to understand all of this heavy lifting has been done, and we can follow what's been done in the books because that's why we bought them in the first place, to make into a show. So they have those templates. And to me, it's almost as if I guess because I read a lot. I read a lot of classical science fiction growing up, and there's so much great world building if you've read things like Dune or the Hyperion Cantos or Peter F. Hamilton or any of the classical science fiction writers, because they spent a long time thinking about the worlds that they're building. That if A is true, that means that B, C, D, E, and F are also true. And so they're because they know when the reader is left alone with their thoughts and the story that's on the page, readers will start asking these questions like, wait a minute, if you're building a star killer base, you know, a science fiction reader is going to go, if the sun is extinguished, there's going to be no heat, and immediately the entire planet will freeze. The gravitational field of the whole system will be different. And will the planet spin off into oblivion? Like, what's going to happen? But there's no thought given there, and they could have had 3 or 4 lines of dialogue, and it would have been, they could have fixed it. But they don't bother. And what I don't understand is, as a film editor myself, I'm like, how do you sit in an edit bay where questions of logic, basic scenes, like when you're shooting a scene, if you have like 4 people in a room and they're moving around as they're talking, you have to make sure that a character doesn't move too far between 2 shots, because we know how fast people move. So logic is a big deal when you're making movies. And yet when you're watching these big budget science fiction films, all of the world building seems to be thrown out the window. And I don't know, I really don't understand. I'm like, how can you be a fan of Star Wars and then give us all of these riffs and dispense with the world building Star Wars did to make you love it in the first place? Like, why would you do that? I don't know.
No, I totally agree. And we read the book and we got to the bottom of some of that. And that's back to some of the things we were talking about earlier. And
that's Elizabeth, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice to meet Elizabeth.
Well,
another cameo.
Hi, Elizabeth. Well, there's what you were talking about, cutscene movie making. There was only one video game where there was cutscenes you should pay attention to, and that's Metal Gear Solid. That's that's the only one. If you're gonna steal, at least steal from the best source.
He's right.
Follow that template. Yeah.
But the problem is, video game cutscenes, you let the logic go out the window just because you know you're going to be jumping into another fight scene where you're pulling arrows out of an invisible, endless quiver of arrows, and you're like, so like a lot of logic gets set to the side as opposed to movies, to where you can't go into a Star Wars movie without any kind of logic, or go into it with video game logic. Just like, the whole like rant that Freddie Prinze Jr. went off on, where he's like, oh, there's no levels to being a Jedi. It's for fucking kids, dog. And then presents a 5-minute argument on all kinds of bullshit that has to do with the politics of Star Wars. It's like, didn't you just say it was for kids before you went into this long rant?
There are, but Tom, there are levels to being a Jedi. A Padawan, Jedi Master.
Well, not just that. And then I threw in a scene, the scene from Empire Strikes Back, because he was trying to present the argument that there was no choice involved. The Force dictates everything. And then I threw in that scene from Empire Strikes Back where Obi-Wan and Yoda are saying, don't leave. If you leave now, you could probably save your friends, but you're going to sacrifice everything you guys fought for because you're not ready to fight Vader, and you're going to have your ass handed to you. You know what I mean? And they were giving Luke a choice. And he had a choice at that moment to either stay and finish his training and go back and finish Vader off, maybe losing his friends, or whatever. So don't tell me that the Force dictates everything. Otherwise, they wouldn't give Luke that choice to continue to be a better level Jedi than he is. Yeah, that whole scene just kind of breaks down his whole argument.
Speaking of choices and finishing, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to be here and to have you all. But it's
Andre is like
late in my neck of the
probably
woods.
Coming up for you. So what did you do, sir? And we'll finish off these super chats for you.
So I just want to say thanks to everyone who came and joined. Thanks especially to you, Robert Burnett, for still being here. That's always a pleasure to.
I got off my own show and jumped into here, so that was always a pleasure. When you guys, when I can do it, I love it. It's fun.
Yeah, we love having you. So it's always a pleasure to have you here. So that's awesome. And everyone in the chat, thank you all for joining, and just stay tuned. Yeah, the other guys will still be here. It's just me calling it the evening. And with that, I'll sign out. So have a great evening, everyone. Bye.
All right.
All right. See you
Take
later,
care.
Andre.
The last one we left off on was $1.99 from Austin Trench. Will Snake Eyes the movie bomb? I don't foresee it doing too well. What about you guys?
Again, it really depends. For me, it always comes down to the execution.
Mm-hmm.
And if a movie turns out to be like, I was not a fan of Stephen Sommers' G.I. Joe, because what again, personal preference, what drives me crazy is it was this idea that just because it's based on the G.I. Joe toy franchise, that you don't have to follow the rules of physics, or you don't have to make it cool. And I think about one of the great movies that surprised me that I thought was going to be god awful was the first Pirates of the Caribbean. Disney, they're making a movie based on a theme park attraction. Like, how's that going to work? But when you watched the film, it had a legit period setting, and then you had Johnny Depp doing his Captain Jack Sparrow thing, which no one had ever seen before. This is a new character, and it all worked. Like, you bought into that because there was just enough reality and enough swashbuckling. You recognized, like, old pirate movies used to be a thing, and it really brought back a bunch of different genres into sort of this pastiche, and it happened to be Pirates of the Caribbean. It was a movie I thought was going to be horrifically bad. I watched the first one and I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. It was, of course, a little long. It wasn't perfect, but it was a confection that I enjoyed. Now, the thing about G.I. Joe, if you grew up with G.I. Joe, like I grew up with the Adventure Team because I'm old, but the G.I. Joe figures of the 3 3/4 figures and our animated series of the early 80s and things were a different animal entirely. And it was obviously directed at kids. But if you wanted to do a G.I. Joe movie, it could have been a kick-ass paramilitary film where G.I. Joe's more like S.H.I.E.L.D., but it was more goofy because Stephen Sommers loves CGI. If you did a Snake Eyes movie that was badass, that really was hardcore, that had great action, and it was firmly set in the real world. I mean, I would see, it's not a great example, but the Olympus and London and Angel Has Fallen movies, those Jared Butler movies. Now, they're not the greatest movies in the world, but they have conviction. Olympus Has Fallen is pretty good, for a B action movie. And if you did a G.I. Joe film that had more of a military bent, that was set more in the real world, but still be fantastical enough that it was recognized as G.I. Joe, and that a character like Snake Eyes could be brought in on the screen and he was kick-ass more than anything else. It wasn't wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think it could be good. It just depends how it's approached. Mm-hmm. Because, look, I am a defender of the first Transformers movie. The Transformers cartoon, the original Generation 1 cartoon series, was not good. The whole toy series was repackaged Japanese toys from other things. That was the first line of Transformers toys. But that first Transformers movie, when I started seeing how how they started portraying the Transformers, there's one shot in that movie that's it's like, I don't know if it's drone shot or a helicopter shot, but it's from way out, and you're pushing into the Griffith Park Observatory, which is a landmark here in Los Angeles, and you see like 5 of the Autobots walking on the outside of the observatory, and you buy it. It's like the Transformers are alive in the real world. And sure, there's goofiness in it, but it's a boy in his car. And for the first half especially, I'm like, I can't believe they've made a Transformers movie. But the first hour of that film, it gets really goofy. The battle scene at the end, because you don't know where you are. You don't know what the lay of the land is. It's really hard to see what's happening. But the first half of that movie made me believe in the Transformers. I'm like, all right. They've even got Peter Cullen doing the voice of Optimus Prime. I'm like, I'm in. I buy into this. It felt like a mid-'80s Amblin Spielberg movie. Like, I can't believe I'm watching a Transformers movie that I could actually like. I mean, by the time the second one was unwatchable. But the first one, I'm like, okay, because of the way they approach the material. And I think anything can be good if I remember, I talked today that the day we're talking, this is the actual day. It is the 35th anniversary of the actual day it was released of the original Terminator. The Terminator came out 35 years ago today. And I remember I saw it probably the day today. I didn't see it the Friday it opened, and I remember thinking to myself, this movie looks like it's a Z grade thriller where Arnold Schwarzenegger's walking around as a robot. Like, I can't imagine this movie is any good at all. And I was a senior in high school, and you go to see it, and that movie kicked ass. I mean, it kicked ass from the opening scene. And it kicked ass because of, Cameron's very talented, but it had conviction. It took itself totally seriously, but it also understood that by Arnold Schwarzenegger being the Terminator, there was an element of whimsy in it, but it played on that. When do you see Schwarzenegger show up? He's wearing nothing. He's completely naked. If you see the Blu-ray, I mean, he's full frontal nudity. And when the first people he meet are these punk rockers, and you see Bill Paxton going, I think this guy's a couple cans short of a six-pack. So there's humor that undercuts the idea that a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger is a robot from the future. But once that happens, and then Schwarzenegger slaughters that dude and takes his clothes, you're off to the races. You believe. And there's such conviction in that movie. He's got such kick-ass action. It was done on a low budget. Once you buy in, and once the filmmaker is smart enough that he understands all of the concerns you have as an audience member, and he makes you believe, you can make a good movie about anything if you do it right. And you have to have the right filmmaker for the job. And what's interesting now is I think we're seeing a lot of filmmakers that they look good on paper. Like J.J. Abrams, people liked him. Paramount had a good experience with him, like on Mission Impossible 3. But he's a guy that said, I don't understand Star Trek. I never liked Star Trek. He shouldn't have been directing Star Trek 09. But, you can see the great genre movies. You go back and you watch any of them. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper, the way they made that movie. Total conviction. You look at there's a New Line movie that was made, I think in 88, that Jack Shoulder directed called The Hidden. The Hidden is a movie about two aliens chasing each other. And the bad alien keeps inhabiting the bodies of people. The bad alien wants to drive Ferraris, listen to heavy metal music, look at strippers, and literally become the president of the United States. That's all the alien wants to do. And the alien is actually, I thought it was very sly, the very audience of people, the dudes and girls now that are watching this movie want to be the bad alien. It's subconscious, but it was such an interesting choice. The screenwriters were very smart about this. And the movie's directed by Jack Shoulder, who went on and directed Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
I actually got an interview coming up with him soon, yeah.
Oh, ask him about that.
It's already in the can. We talked a little bit about The Hidden, but I loved The Hidden, but the fact that he made that movie in the wrong hands, it could have been totally goofy. And what's really funny is the movie opens with this black Ferrari driving through MacArthur Park, and it drives through a big pane of glass, and then it crashes into all these police officers, and it's pretty ludicrous. It kicks ass, but if you're a teenage headbanger that's listening to, Ronnie James Dio or whatever, Quiet Riot or whatever you were listening to in the 80s, and you went and saw that movie, it immediately grabs you because they're playing heavy metal music and he's driving a Ferrari, crashes into the cops, and you're totally with that movie. The filmmakers were sly enough to set it up and make you believe. And once you believe, you'll buy into it as long as it doesn't betray the trust it's instilled in the viewers from the beginning. And the Terminator, 35 years ago, the Terminator came out and made us believe. And it's because James Cameron never faltered, never wavered in his conviction with his own premise. And he played it through, and it kicked ass. And next week, 35 years later, there's another Terminator movie coming out, for better or for worse. We'll get into that later at a later date. Do you have anything to say to that, Rob?
Not really, but you said Ferrari. I mean, I keep saying I am actually looking forward to more than Star Wars. Ford versus Ferrari, James Mangold's new movie.
Because it looks like a real movie.
And yeah,
about real people that do real things that makes sense.
Exactly. And the actual story is really interesting. If you ever yeah. I mean, Henry Ford II and Enzo Ferrari and being from an Italian family, I know how spiteful Italian older Italian men can be. And he says when the instant he said to his lawyer, "Let's get something to eat," and they get up and they walk out. I'm like, yeah, that's something Enzo would have done. Yeah, and John Bernthal is the Iacocca, and Christian Bale is Kenny Miles. I mean, like I said, it's a great story, and the fact that I'm going to go see a Ford versus Ferrari movie in an age where probably less people care about Le Mans in America than probably figure skating or something like that.
Right.
Really says something that you could take something like this and make a great movie out. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but you could make a movie out of it.
Well, it's really interesting. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I watched Grace Randolph's review of Ford versus Ferrari today. See, I skip around on YouTube.
There you go.
And to be fair, she actually said something really interesting. She says that what this movie is really about, it's about two artists who are fighting corporate interest. Where the driver, Christian Bale's character, Matt Damon's character, even though they're interested in building cars, they're artists.
Oh yeah.
They and the fact that they're fighting against corporate interests. I thought, okay, that's a really interesting, and I don't know if a lot of people are going to get that, but I thought that was a really interesting way to put it. And that I'm like, I think we're all really starved. As much as we like science fiction, fantasy, horror, or superhero movies, we're still starved to be getting movies about real people and real things, whether it's The Irishman, whether it's Ford versus Ferrari. And I have to say, I'm interested in Midway too. Roland Emmerich's Midway.
Pending seeing The Irishman right now. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my favorite movie of the year so far. I know that's a little bit on the off kilter realistic, but I mean, Tarantino, anything he does to me is just wonderful. He has never missed yet.
No,
not by
I agree with you 100%.
So, so there's that. Other than, I want to see The Irishman bad. I'm planning on watching Dolomite at some point here.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that tonight.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So those are pending seeing those films so far this year. Joker's coming in at second for me, and Once Upon a Time so far is number one. So
I'm just waiting for the think pieces though to come out, and things like the Mary Sue Ford versus Ferrari is problematic with toxic masculinity.
I want to see that though too. I was going to say that one might wind up in my top 5.
But you know what? It takes a certain kind of guy certain kind of man to drive an unproven race car at 200 miles an hour.
Right.
That could kill him in an instant.
It's so funny. I was talking about this idea of toxic masculinity. It's such a weird, like I said that, I have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years of biological programming in me that is not something that I want to get rid of anytime soon because it works. It's kept us here for a long time. Yeah. And this idea, I don't want to live in a world where everybody's sitting around at a coffee house and nobody's really interested in one another. The idea of things like lust and romance and all that are going to go away because we're going to talk about things like, oh, we don't want toxic masculinity around. Toxic masculinity got us to the moon.
Yep.
Well, not only that, the basis for every story is there's a hero, there's a heroine. Sometimes the hero is a girl. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's, that it's like but exclusive club, but Hollywood wants to make you think it is. And I think I told you about this, R&B. There was recently an article where a younger woman saw Alien for the first time, and she was just shocked at how there was a strong female character in a movie that was 40 years old.
It's my favorite. There's somebody posted that they just shown their wife, Alien for the first time, and they asked what she thought of it, and she goes, "I love this movie. A smart woman is the only one who survives, along with her cat." And I'm like, yeah, I couldn't say that aloud, but I mean, it's such a strange thing that's what I think really.
They also like to point out that she's right. Don't forget that, Robert.
Right.
They love pointing out that part too.
Right. She was. Well, what's really interesting about that film is, first of all, I think Alien still to this day, it's a masterpiece. It's a perfect movie, but it's a movie where people have mutual respect for one another. You've got Lambert and you've got Ripley. Yeah. No, and that they're all part of the crew. They all have their jobs to fulfill. Mm-hmm. And Sigourney Weaver is one of the smartest and most pragmatic. She's by the book. Look, man, we can't bring this in here because of quarantine. And Captain Dallas is like, no, you got to get him in here. And little did Captain Dallas know what he was doing. And Ash, of course, isn't really a person. But you look at that kind of stuff, and what we've lost adults in the room. Mm-hmm. The people that are bitching and moaning and complaining about things like toxic masculinity, I'm like, you haven't lived in the real world yet. And that's what I see. I mean, it's very strange to me. I'm like, wait till, I've often joked, wait till the Martians come down and the heat rays are flying. No one's going to care about anything aside from the masculinity that you're going to need to stand up in the face of the alien invasion. I mean, it's such a
that's kind of the point of the end of The Watchmen,
right? Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of Watchmen?
I haven't got a chance to watch it yet.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen I haven't seen it yet.
I got to drag myself into doing it. I have the ability to. I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, but it's such a strange. I mean, this idea that we have to be embarrassed of human history. Look, humanity has been horrible to everybody. It doesn't matter how far you go back. People have been victimized and abused and treated horribly. No one is better at abusing their fellow creatures on this planet than mankind is. But on the other hand, we're living longer than we've ever lived. There's more inclusion than there's ever been. There's more people aware of things than there's ever been. Things are better for humanity than they have ever been. Does that mean there isn't room for improvement? No. Does that mean that there aren't a lot of people that are still being victimized and are marginalized? There are. But we're doing pretty good compared to, say, 100 years ago or 200 years ago. It's like, where is this utopian civilization that everybody seems to wonder about? Like, we're all going to be perfect people. And when has that ever happened? What are people taught? What are they looking for? What do you think is going to happen? Like, if you could build the people, I always have wanted the Mary Sue to write a manifesto, because I hate that website. Like, what is it you want? Please write the Mary Sue manifesto and tell me everything that you expect to have happen, and then tell me how that's going to be achieved. What is it
it's going to make storytelling better?
Right. How is that going to work? And when is that going to work? Show me an example of everything that you want, and when has any of that ever worked ever? And if you can show that to me, I'm happy to sit down and entertain a conversation with you then. But it's like these proclamations that are made today. People have no sense of history. They have no sense of biology and science or decorum or culture, society, anything. I mean, it's very angering to see this kind of thinking, because it isn't thinking. You make these proclamations about how the world I want the world to be this way. Well, it's like the climate. There's 100 million different variables. And the idea that you want this beautiful kumbaya inclusive world where everybody's going to be happy with everybody else, how do you go about achieving that? And once you have it, how do you expect to continue moving forward? How? And, are you going to remove? That's the reason why things like communism or socialism ultimately don't work, because you're taking away the ability of an individual to pursue their own hopes and dreams and all of those things. And it's such a strange world. Like you said, oh, I didn't know Alien existed. Well, how come you don't know Alien existed? Why are you bitching and moaning and complaining when movies like this were made 40 years ago? Just because you don't know about them doesn't mean they're not there. And you are the one that needs to get more educated before you tell other people how they should think. And that's what really bothers me.
I agree, and that's the biggest problem. Yes, and not to shift gears, but we got a couple of super chats we want to get through real quick and get them out of the way. Because the people who sent them have been very, very patient. We appreciate it. Adam Wolford, Starkiller would only need 1% of the sun to destroy planets. Hyperspace is understand normal space. It would be better if you use a space gun. if you use space gun, yeah.
But it doesn't ever say that in the movie. You know, it's funny because you can only go by, you can't read a visual. You
can only show, not tell so much, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff, though.
Right, and even the whole thing about Starkiller Base, it makes no sense. Why would you build something like that isn't mobile? Or is it? And if it is, we don't know. You know, and if it's mobile, and why would you build? I mean, when you're in space, the Death Star can literally shoot in any direction. But Starkiller Base has only built its primary weapon, around the horizon? What if you wanted to shoot straight up? You can't do that.
It's around the equator, yeah.
Yeah, like what if you wanted to shoot above you? And I mean, maybe they can shoot at a 45-degree angle off axis or something. But even the design of that, it's like, did anybody actually think if this thing? Here's my problem with a lot of the world building in science fiction. If you go back and you look at Star Trek, especially the motion picture, when Mike Miner and Andy Probert were designing the Enterprise, all of it was thought through. The inner decks of the ship, the configuration, and they all knew how vaguely this thing would work. I feel that when Starkiller Base was designed, it was designed for a visual thing, but nobody actually sat down and thought to themselves, okay, if this is real, how would it work? And why would you then design it this way? And I think all of the great design work, whether it's Sid Mead, you know, one of the great designers who designed a lot of Tron and designed a lot of Blade Runner, all of our great designers would think about, they were industrial designers, they had to think about form and function. And I feel today, like with video game cutscene storytelling, we have a lot of video game designing where you can have a cool thing in a video game and you don't really have to think it through. And all of that thinking is permeated genre filmmaking. We certainly saw it in the last season of Game of Thrones. Nobody actually stopped to think about, well, wait a minute. If this is happening, then what about this happening? And a lot of it just doesn't make sense because they don't think they have to think it through. And all of the great fantasy storytelling, whether it's George R.R. Martin and his books, whether it's Tolkien, whether it's C.S. Lewis, you know, whether it's Stephen R. Donaldson, whether it's the Dragon Riders of Pern, whatever, all of these authors were really thinking through that, okay, if dragons exist, then we have to figure out there's now 100 different questions that a reader is going to ask about dragons, about the ecosystem they exist in, how fast can they fly, how far can they travel before they have to eat something. There's all of these questions. How much fire can they breathe before they run out? How long does it take to replenish whatever it is that is flammable? All of these questions need to be answered by an author because the story they're telling is going to rely on how much their reader believes a dragon exists. And that's the same is true of any science fiction or fantasy or horror film. Everything has to have rules. In Hellraiser, the Cenobites don't just show up. You've got to open up the lament configuration. You know, and once you've opened it up, then you owe them something or whatever. I know they've played fast and loose with this in the past. But there are rules. You know, the Cenobites just, you know, they're not going to come. If you're going to a rave tomorrow night, you're never going to meet a Cenobite there. And they're not going to, they won't bother you if you've not opened the lament configuration. This is important. This becomes part of the storytelling. You know, and with Star Wars, the same thing was true. You know, droids can only do this. You can only, everything has rules because that's the way the world works.
Yeah,
You know,
I like how all of a sudden, not to get off topic, but droids are all of a sudden, they used to be like second-class citizens, and now all of a sudden they're like droid lives matter and stuff in Solo and all this other crap. That bothered me. I'm sorry.
Well, again, you're transposing something from the modern day that's now, and that's problematic. You know, one of the great things about Star Wars is the original Star Wars is that it's timeless. They did a really good job a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So they made most of the things in a way neutral, and it didn't rely on colloquialisms. That was another thing about Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Making these jokes. I mean, the jokes in Star Wars, if you really think about it, you know, when Han Solo says, I don't know, do you think a princess and a guy like, no. That was humorous. That was a humorous exchange that would have existed anywhere in history between two dudes who've just met a reasonably attractive girl.
As opposed to a Yo Mama joke in the beginning.
That is a perfect example. A Yo Mama joke doesn't work because that becomes colloquial, and it's in 30 years that joke's going to be outdated. But the thing about Star Wars is it's
already outdated. But yeah, sorry.
But but it's timeless. Star Wars is timeless, and it was the way it was told that keeps it fresh, and that universe is fresh. And when you start bringing in colloquialisms of our time, things that are happening now, you immediately date it. It's immediately dated. And that's why Star Wars and Empire and Jedi work particularly well, because they don't rely on modern jokes. It's still classical storytelling, and even the humor is always derived from, it's all character. The humor, the best kind of humor in these movies is not at the expense of our characters, but it's all situational. It's things that our characters are reacting to and experiencing. And instead of, you're not doing it at their expense. And I think, you know, when Harrison Ford is when they're in the prison section getting Princess Leia out, Harrison Ford, Han Solo doesn't know the nomenclature. You know, he doesn't know what to say. They're asking him, respond the way you're supposed to respond. He's like,
we're fine. We're all fine.
We're all fine here. How are you?
And that is pretty timeless, because again, it's a situational experience where all of us understand that if we don't know what the military protocol is,
which he supposedly does since he was in the
now, yeah. But I mean, at the time, he doesn't know how a prison, you know. And so that becomes, not only is that a humorous scene, that's humor that's actually earned, that the audience can laugh not at our characters, but with our characters. I mean, the first time you meet C-3PO, just the way Anthony Daniels is talking, he's kind of this fey robot. Did you hear that? They've shut down the main reactor. We'll be destroyed for sure. And you immediately get that this guy is kind of he's an uptight Brit. He could have been in Downton Abbey if he wasn't a protocol droid taking care of the manor. I mean, he's one of those guys. And
that really fits his character, though. And I think that's where George Lucas kind of warmed up to Anthony Daniels as a character, too.
Oh, and it works. Yeah. It works. Well, I'm not going that way. It's much too rocky. Like, of course it is. And the idea that a protocol droid would say that is funny. I mean, that's a character thing. And so you can play off on C-3PO. And when C-3PO gets blown up by the stormtroopers, you know, the Ugnaughts find him, and Chewbacca finds him. And when puts them back together, and when the last thing when he gets turned back on, he gets turned back on, and 3PO is like, stormtroopers here, it becomes funny because he doesn't even know he got blown up by stormtroopers yet. And then when Chewie's put on the head backwards, I mean, you believe that, okay, Chewie's having a bad day. It's all situational humor, and it becomes, it's not, you know, you're not talking about, don't put me on hold, you know, like they do in Last Jedi. Suddenly the humor becomes of our world,
right?
And it becomes dated, and it's not funny, and it breaks the fourth wall. It breaks the wall of the Star Wars universe.
And it's one of the reasons why I had some issues with the prequels. Not to bring them into it, but when C-3PO is like, "Oh, this is such a drag," it's like, "Oh, that's not going to age well."
No, and again, that was because George Lucas never really understood that he really was making movies for the child and everyone. Not
right. Well, he reportedly didn't want the "I love you, I know" line famous.
No, that they made that up.
Yeah, in his cut, it wasn't in it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the great books you'll ever read, the Rinsler. I cannot recommend Rinsler's books enough. He wrote The Making of Star Wars, The Making of Empire, and The Making of Jedi. They're incredible books, and I think it's really telling that his book on the making of Force Awakens was never published. They put the kibosh on it.
Really?
But those books are pretty interesting, especially the making of Empire, because George Lucas, what was going on with Empire, it almost bankrupted him, and he almost lost everything, and he was going to have to give his merchandising rights back to Fox. I mean, those books are amazing, and they're very candid. And you read it, and it's like, look, it was Lucas's collaborators. Lucas dreamed all this stuff up, but it was his collaborators that made sure that the movie was for adults. You know, in the prequel trilogy, George Lucas's impulses to make it more of a kids' film were on full display.
Right. And then, like, I've heard that, and it's in that famous video, Saved in the Cut, where basically Marcia Lucas saved the movie in the final cut.
Yeah.
By creating tension with the scene you were talking about earlier with the exhaust port. That didn't exist before. It was all about the part where them going to blow it up did, but there was this no ticking clock. There was no ticking clock and she just created this whole thing in editing, I believe, using a lot of scenes, I suppose, from earlier on when they destroyed Princess Leia's quote unquote home planet in the beginning part.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you that happens a lot when you're editing movies.
Oh yeah, and I know, and that's where it means a lot coming from you every time you say it. When you say good things about the editing on Midnight's Edge, because between you and Robert Shea, there's hardly any higher praise I can get from people who have edited before. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's and it's funny because I've watched the evolution of editorial on YouTube. I mean, the way people cut themselves, how they do those really quick jump cuts when they're talking, how that's become kind of the de rigueur amongst people that are doing their own YouTube channels and stuff. The way, if you look at like Jeremy Johns or something like that, and it's interesting because that was kind of those jump cuts were relatively new. They're very Max Headroom, but that's become, everybody does that now. But I think that when you're telling stories, the way you've got narration and images, you guys do a really good job. Oh, Gilbert is up on my desk again, trying to steal things. Gilbert, you can't have that. But that's why I started watching your videos. You know, that's what got me. I'm like, oh, somebody's actually paying attention to edit. Gilbert.
Oh, he's got to get in the show.
Hey, what's this over here? Hey, what's going on over here?
Does he need a cookie? You're on mute. I think he muted you on accident.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. And then you moved yourself, and then it muted you again.
Yeah.
There you go.
Am I back, or is it my mic? Is my actual microphone working? Or
you're good?
Yeah.
No, you're good. Okay. So yeah, as you were saying, sorry.
Actually, my whole system now. I can't hear you through my headphones. I'm hearing you through my speakers. Gilbert has caused everything to be thrown out of kilter.
Gilbert.
Well, we'll give you a second to see if you can fix that while I go through this next super chat here. $5, and this kind of goes right along with what we're talking about anyway. $5 from Drake is 6. It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Typical Jar Jar movie. Credit to Annie Trekker on Gary's live stream. Yeah, we love Annie Trekker, Michael. He's a good guy. Every Wednesday on Midnight's Edge After Dark with us over there, if you're so inclined to check us out at 7 p.m. Central. Next super chat we got is $5 from North American Hammer Norman, or Hamrammer. Hamrammer is the name. Norman Reedus is alive and well, yet they didn't cast him as John Connor to team up with Linda Hamilton for an epic Terminator film, My Title, No Fate. Yeah, he wouldn't be a bad choice. Mm-hmm. From what I've heard and what we know about this new Terminator movie, though, they basically make Sarah Connor a failure to build up this new character. And yeah, I'm not going to get into too many specifics because I don't want to spoil it for anybody in the chat. But yeah, how's things working for you over there, Robert?
They're a little crazy. I think I have to jump anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, it was a pleasure as always to have you. We got just one or two more super chats to get through here anyway. So thank you again for joining us. Do check out the Burnett work over there. He does some great, wonderful work. And he also has a website with the same name, correct?
TheBurnettWork.net, and you can send me letters there, and I read them live on the air. So check it out.
Yes, he does.
Yes, Robert Meyer Burnett, always a pleasure.
Well, thanks, gentlemen, for having me. I love coming on to Midnight's Edge, although I miss the do.
He missed it earlier.
I love your logo.
I'd almost do it for you real quick, but people would be like, "What's going on?" No,
right. Right. Well, thank you. I will be back soon.
We hope so. We do. All right. Have
All
a
right.
good evening, sir.
I'll
Thank
see you later.
All right,
Bye.
take care.
All right. Yeah, that's did you have anything to say about Terminator, Rob, before we move on to the next super chat?
Not seeing it. That's all.
Careful, you almost said a naughty word. Oh Lord. Next one I got in line here is $5 from Drakel6. I think I'm saying it right. You can have Orions in Starfleet if they're free Orions, escaped Orion unions. Escaped the Orion Union, but it needs to be explained like the Gorns in the novel. Yeah, that goes, I think, back to what we were talking about earlier about this, they being slave girls, the green girls. Yeah. Did you have anything to say about that, Rob?
No, but I never thought about the Eddie Murphy version of Captain Kirk. I mean, it is.
It is. That's what he is.
Yeah.
I thought about it when I was listening to Eddie Murphy one time a while back. I'm like, oh my God, this is like permeated the culture now. This is why everybody, because we were talking about it, was like, why does everybody think he's such a woman's man and this and that and the other? He's only slept with so many women and, you know, this, that, and the other. And it's like, it's Eddie Murphy.
He's charming. Kirk is charming more than anything. He's charming.
Right, but
he's suave, but
he's not swaggering cool. He's cool under pressure and stuff like that. But Eddie Murphy sees Captain Kirk as the coolest guy ever. So
yeah,
in his comedy stand-up version, he's projected this new version onto us. He's like, you know, yeah, he even fucked a green bitch.
Remember time we were down that planet? Yeah. All right.
So next one we got is great stream and comments in the chat from Sister Harrow. Thank you so much. She's a great supporter of the channels. Australian $2 from her. Thank you. We always like to be blessed by Sister Harrow. So here's another one. Rob and at Mead is my favorite narrator. Good voice. We do love having Rob do his narrations. He's very good at it. So
thank you very much.
Me says $1.99. Will the robot in Solo be in the next Star Wars? I hope to God. I know this, and I've said it a million times on our After Dark podcast. Rob knows what I'm talking about when I say they're gonna have a scene probably where Lando comes in for the first time into the freaking Millennium Falcon, and he rubs the console. And he's like, "I've missed you, old girl," and you know he's referring to all that crap. Yeah.
I wonder if there's any ice cold Colt 45 left in your refrigerator. Colt 45 works every time. Yeah.
It's the only way I can get through this. No, yeah, I'm not too keen on the whole character version. I just
you know, they call me a pandosexual. You want to find out what that means? All right.
Next one is this was probably more for Andre, so we'll have to see if he can give you a better answer on this one. Kerry Dalton with $2. World building thoughts on William Gibson. Is that what it was? Yeah, William Gibson. I'm not too familiar with his works. I know Necromancer, but I've never read it. So that's something I think Andre might have a little bit more to say on. If not, I don't have any, or maybe even Robert Meyer Burnett might have been able to add a little bit more to that. So I don't have an opinion on that matter. And I think that's all the super chat says today, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, well, I think we're caught up. What do you think? What do you say we wrap? We've been out.
Yeah, I think we've got everything caught up, and we want to thank all of you guys for joining us on this, meaning you guys out there in the chat, and we want to thank, of course, our guests for joining us today. Without them, we wouldn't have had such great topics to talk about. We always like to have Andre take the time to join us as well. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Isn't that right, Rob?
All right, we'll catch you next time.